Okay, so welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to have today with us Konstantinos Petridis for the Research Skills Day of our intensive course on perovskite materials and their optoelectronic applications. So a short introduction about Konstantinos. So he received his bachelor's degree in physics from the Department of Physics in 1996 from the University of Crete in Greece, and then he moved to the United Kingdom, and he obtained his master's in science degree in optoelectronics from the optoelectronics and laser devices from the University of St. Andrews 1997, and then 1998 he joined in the same university the nonlinear optics group, and he acquired a PhD in the same University of St. Andrews. He then moved to ICFO in Spain and as a postdoctoral fellow and studied nonlinear optics together with Professor Imbrahizadeh in Barcelona, Spain. In 2004, he joined the Department of Electronic Engineering of the of Crete or the Hellenic Mediterranean University, and then 2012 he became assistant professor. In 2017 he became associate professor in the same department. So Konstantinos is an expert of laser physics and the application of lasers in many different topics such as photovoltaics, sensors, and transistors. And today he will speak to us about his experience on the teaching science and the soft skills. And I would like also to mention that he is one of the most active academics of the University of Hellenic Mediterranean University, and also the academic coordinator of the International Relations Office and also the Observatory for Science of the ATHENA European University. So it is a great pleasure and honor for us to have you in our school, Konstantinos.
Thank you very much, George, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. And I have no, okay, I think that you can see my screen right now.
Not yet. You can see your screen, but not your presentation. Yes, good.
My presentation is a secret. So, so thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much, George, for the organization of the school. As I have mentioned in the various days, we have done the minimum in order to support the implementation of this very successful, I will say, intensive program. So today we are starting with something that I think that it's a key element for you. I'm going to present a part of the lectures that we have in Hellenic Mediterranean University and the ATHENA European University in order to help to our students, not exactly write a paper, but to give them the tips in order to have a guide and a guideline how to write a paper according to what is expected. It was something that it was missing when I was an undergraduate student in the University of Crete, and I hope that you are going to find it useful. At least, I'm going to remind you some stuff. And if you have a different opinion, please interrupt me anytime. This is, the purpose of the soft skills and the research skills development, to have an interaction between us, and, different opinions are very accepted. So the title of my talk is like, what is a scientific paper? What are the main building blocks? What kind of scientific paper do they appear? Because it's not only the journal papers. What are their characteristics? But this is going to be a short introduction about the various types of the scientific papers and what kind of publications you can make. And towards the development of the lecture, the running of the lectures, we're going to be focused and a little bit explain the main characteristics of the various building blocks of journal papers, like the title, the keywords, the abstract, the introduction, the results, the conclusions, and then the references. So as you know, I hope that you are a part of a university. Some of you are undergraduate students, some of you are postgraduate students, but there is a currency in our topic, in our work. In the brokers, they have a different currency, how many ships they are going to rent to various companies. in medicine, probably how many surgeries you are going to perform. In Wall Street, how many funds you are going to sell. But in the university, our currency, among others, that they are also significant, is like how many papers you are going to publish. And it's not only the number, because here is a trap. It's not the number of the papers that you are going to publish. It's the number of citations that your work is going to receive that is important. So I will say, and this is how do we calculate, the impact, the H index of the various scientists that they are involving in this kind of business, let's say. So it's to publish something with an impact. This is important. To just publish is not important, and I will say it's not important. It is somehow important, but it's not so important if citations are not, if your articles are not receiving citations. Probably, some papers at the beginning they don't receive citations because it's something very innovative. So there are not people in the field in order to read and assign and refer, make a reference of your work. And in the future, more citations they will come. Which is very good, but just to publish, I will say it's something like not existent. In our case, this is a very famous cartoon. There is no, you cannot survive if you don't publish, and there is a very well-known common say, interesting and unpublished does not exist. So there are various types of publications, but also there is a motivation in order to publish. First of all, if you are a young scientist, in order to get introduced and build your reputation and get known to each other, it's not like to calling a girlfriend, calling your phone and say like, hi, I'm Kostas. But in order to get introduced to the scientific community, you should publish in order the people to learn your work. And when the people, they are getting your work, your reputation is coming ahead of you. So people, you're going to the conference, you are going to meetings, and people, they say like, oh, yes, I know you, even though that you have never met. I mean, in science and in the universities, you should share your results. You should not hide something, because this does not promote the research. And also, if you hide, the people, they will never cite you. So this works against you. There are a lot of scientists that they say like, oh, we should publish, but we should hide some things in order to publish later, or we should not reveal everything. This is not academic culture. In the academic culture, you should share everything. You should, of course, back up, as you will see, any of your results in order to build this community, in order the people to get know each other and cite you. So this is something very fundamental, apart of to communicate your research, apart to disseminate your research. You should share your results in order to get cited, build your reputation. And when you have a reputation, the people, they found your work interesting and useful and with an impact, then you can get an academic job. Then you can get, as you are evolving and your experience is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you can receive funding, because believe it or not, publication is something that, together with presentation skills, I think that this is going to be my other presentation, is like you are convincing the others to fund your work. I mean, they are not giving you money or funding because you are handsome or beautiful, or because you are very good bullshitter, because bullshitting is a part of our job, but you should prove and you should convince them that what are you doing is useful, it's published, it's receiving citations. That's why your lab should receive funding. And I mean, in order to receive funding, you should write grants. And one of the topics to show that your grant is credible is your publications. So it's the currency in the academia. What is, a technique? I mean, we have, as I told you, we are going to start a short introduction of the various kind of publications that they exist. But whatever you publish, whatever you think that you can publish, whatever you think that other people, they are going to read, should be coherent. And we will see what I mean by this. It should be a story. Recently, one of the most, I will say, requested soft skills to the academia, to the scientists, but also, to the business, is like the storytelling. Probably you have heard this. There are courses that they are recently are introducing to the universities, named How to Write a Nice Story. And this is what is a publication. Publication is a nice story. This is what is a proposal. It's a nice story. And a nice story has a coherence. I mean, does not demonstrate gaps, or does not demonstrate a nice story, does not, I mean, at the end, makes, you know, the reviewer, makes the readers to say, wow, I mean, this is well understood. I have questions, but I know the motivation. I know what problem do they address. The results are very clear, and it should be clear, because in order also to receive the citations, your story should help other people to continue your work. So any competition that, I know that it's a very competitive market, but any competition should be, how can I say, should be seized, because your story, and you publish in order to help yourself, but also to help the others. A good paper, a good publication, either is a report, either is a conference paper, should or a journal paper, should help the others to continue your work. This is the impact. We used to say that, you know, the research should demonstrate an impact to the market, because our research addresses market needs. The market takes the results, can apply them, can modify them, can improve them in order to show that what are you doing has a result, it has an impact, it's useful. So a coherent story is a story that has a beginning and an end, but also is something that the others, they can take and they can use it to continue your work. So it's something that it should be written clearly. You should use specific and avoid other expressions, and verbose and rhetoric expressions should be avoided, because, you know, they are general kind of formats. This is a type of a technical report, let's say, if we start from the technical reports, that, you know, they are reports that probably your supervisor is going to be requested. If you work for an industry, your supervisor in the industry should learn how the project that has been assigned to you is involved, what are the main findings, and it's something to convince the others, if you work in the industry, to keep you in the business. A technical report characteristics is for internal use. Now we are starting with the various type of publications. Is outline early research ideas. And now we are moving to the workshop paper, which is something that is limited to present very early acquired results. Here, because of the competition, probably you should somehow hide something. And also the workshop paper is usually in conjunction with a conference. If we go now to symposium, that, you know, a small conference, more mature results will be presented. You know, this kind of symposium are held independent of any conference session. Now we are moving ahead to the step of the significance of publications, and we're moving to a conference paper that starts to have the presence of a journal, a manuscript paper. You should follow a specific format to make the references. You know, your results is more mature, but not almost completed. You would like somehow to announce to the community that something important comes. It is, you know, it starts, you know, this kind of publications in conference, especially if they are going to be included to the abstract of the conference, to be considered as a part of your CV, and as I said, like, to be included to the conference. So now we are going about, we are moving now to the main core of the publication. Here I'm presenting something from our work. I think that you can see George Kakavelakis and Apostolos Panagiotopoulos and the more people that they are working with us. And the main characteristics of a journal paper is to present in a coherent way, in a clear way, to show the impact of completed experiments. Of course, it's considered the most awarded publication, and its quality is linked with, you know, reference to other people. I'm going to analyze everything in details, and the impact factor of a journal is very much related how the dissemination will happen, the quality, the assessment that, you know, these kind of publications they will receive. The research papers, they can be categorized into three types: an original research paper, that you present your results, that they are innovative, no other people, they have published something similar or the same results. Similar could be because you should have also a link with what is happening. Then we have a review paper that is a challenge, even though they are not original work, but it's a challenge because the main challenge in the review paper, in order to make this, the long story short, is to, as an expert, to say, to review the technology, but also this is a contribution to show the perspective, to show, to propose modern things, modern, what kind of changes or what kind of future experiments should be done and in which direction. So a review paper, and this is a mistake that the people they are doing, I have done it at the very beginning, is like to just add, you know, stories and summarize other people's work. No, this is bullshit. No, I'm sorry about my language, but this is, you know, you should somehow make the stories of the others your coherent story in order to propose something, to propose, if you are an agency, a funding agency, that this technology moves towards this direction, these are the challenges, and these are the proposed solutions to help the others and to review the technology, new PhD students to learn about this, but at the same time, to facilitate and plan their research activity in the future. Another thing is the book chapter, a little bit underestimated as an importance, but I think also it's very closer to a review paper, but also you can have an impact. People, they can cite your work less than, you know, reading a review paper, but also I think that should be developed to the way that I mentioned, a review paper that summarizes in a coherent way the other stories, review, summarizes the challenges, but also proposing new ideas. So a scientific paper, in order to go now to more details to each section, is like a Lego. You have different compartments, different parts that you should link them in order, you know, someone to read a nice story. And the main topics of a scientific paper, it's the title, the authors and their affiliations, a very big deal regarding the ethics. Who is going to be the author? Who are going to be the co-authors? Which people they are going to be included into the acknowledgement? If you are a group leader, or if you are going to become a group leader, this is something that you should pay a very good attention for the balance and, you know, the collaboration of your group. You should be fair on this. I will give you some tips or my ideas or what do I think. Then we are moving to an abstract, a very important part. I mean, people, when they are reading a paper, you know, the first thing that they read is the abstract. And then they are moving to the figures. And then they say like, okay, now I'm going to read the whole paper. Then we have the introduction where we review the story. We are doing, you know, the bibliographic research, and based on the unanswered challenges the other people they have not addressed, then this is our motivation. We are coming there and we say like, look, the other people, they have done this work, and now us, we are proposing something more. So an abstract is like to have a line. You have a line. I don't know if you can see me through the camera. I hope that we will be in the same room. So this is a line. So the people, what work they have done up to this line, and your contribution, if you are doing good research and if you have something to say, is that's like to push a little bit the line almost upwards. And this is the progress of this means progress of a research. So you are pushing the line between the known and the unknown. All right. And this is something that the people they respect and they cite your work. Then we're moving to the results. The results should be, and you will see later on, this is just the introduction. The results should be very clear, and clear results means clear figures in my case. At the beginning, when, you know, no one has discussed to me, and when my supervisor received, when I was a PhD student, my first CV, my first manuscript, When he returned back to me my manuscript, I could not see the text because it was everything notes. No, correct. I said like, oh, what bullshit guy. I thought that I have done a terrific job. Actually, I should keep in this in order to demonstrate to my courses. I have done, everything was the opposite that it should have been done. I paid no attention to the figures. When I mean this, no axes, no units, just, a graph in the origin, that period. No, start from the figures. The story should start from the figures. Analyze the figures very well. A figure, as the Chinese say, is one image with, reveals 100 stories, 100 words. So everyone should understand your results by just looking at the figures. Spend, I don't know, the majority of the times regarding the analysis of the results should be the figures. Great quality, all the story to be revealed from there. It's just like reading the manual. Read the fucking manual, they used to say. In order to understand how a device operates, we go to the figures. So the results, you should start them from the figures, and the analysis of the figures should be the text. All right. So great importance for the figures. Then you discuss your results, you summarize your results, but at the same time, this is so important. Say, what do you propose for the future? I know I have received a lot of comments when we are writing papers with my colleagues, and they say, like, Kostas, don't reveal too much. No, I mean, you should reveal, because this shows the relevance of your work, and this shows that your work is important. Remember, citations is not now the number, it is the number of citations. This is going to build your reputation. Then materials and methods, if this is requested, it depends on the paper. The references should follow the format of the journal. George Kakavelakis, that we are colleagues and we were partners before, collaborators before he moved and continued his excellent career in Cambridge and EPFL or Panagotopoulos, Apostolos Panagotopoulos or Timur, also very good PhD. Now they are PhD students, but my collaborators, especially George, paid a lot of attention to the reference, and he was right. In order to publish and avoid to lose your time, the reference and the style should follow the journal. You cannot reference your work following any style that you wish. And then journals, they have a very nice description and a very good manual that describes in details how you should write and type the references. Any mistake over there, your paper is going to be rejected before even reach the reviewers. All right, I will give more examples. Figures and tables and supplementary materials if this is requested. So let's start one by one. Title. The title should be one line, if this is possible. Should contain the language, the words that if someone is going to do Google search, he's going to type these words that you are included in the title. This will expose your research easier. People will read your work, and if they found interesting, and we are going to give the tips, then you are going to get the fucking citations. Citations. This is the money. This is your reputation. So the title should be short, but should contain and summarize the story, needs experience. That's why the supervisors are there. That's why your experience is there. And also contain the keywords that is going to make your work more easier searchable. So as general as possible in order to be searchable, but also capturing the essence of your work. As I mentioned, it should make the other people easy to search. The first letter of each work, mainly in the majority of the journals, should be in capital, and avoid to use acronyms, because acronyms, people, they will say, what is this? All right. And as I mentioned, one line, if you can keep it one line, and the maximum 2 lines is important. Now, someone who's going to ask us, okay, this is, an example. I'm using the example. I'm not saying that we are a very good example, but, I found the best example from our work. You can see one line. So now we are coming to the author list, and I will say how are you going to list the authors? First of all, is your ethical duty, and also is the most important policy in order to keep, if you are a group leader or if you are going to become a group leader, to keep the collaboration and peace within your group, in the maximum. Otherwise, problem starts. And the problem starts in a group: who is going to be first, who is going to be second, who is going to be the last. So to make the story clear, and I repeat that probably you know this, but the first author should be this one, that without him or her, the work could not be done. This is very clear, no? It's the one that makes the highest contribution. And then the contribution and the importance to the work is this one that he's writing the paper, probably. But, it's the one that he did the main job. And then, the series, the list follows, this kind of importance. The last one is the one, usually, that funds the work. The work is the supervisor that has received the funding. He has supervised the work. That's why he should be the last. Sometimes you will say that, oh, there are 2-3 people that, they have done the job. Yes. So the first one, the second one, with the third one, with a star next to their name, and then a comment, they have equally contributed to this work. So this makes, this series of listing the names in the same importance. Never do the following mistakes that I have seen, in my career. Never cite your friends, because your friends, they will cite you. This is unethical. It's non-ethical. I'm sorry, I'm doing some mistakes in English because I'm Greek. Not all the Greeks are doing mistakes, but my English is I learned English from experience. It is non-ethical, it's not ethical, because other people that you're not your friends, they're not going to get citations. So the competition, you are not creating nice competition to the other scientists. So never do this. Never cite someone because he's going to cite you. He's going to include you to the author in his next paper or in her next paper. This is non-ethical. Never, for example, cite someone that has not. I mean, if you close your eyes, you could say, I could do the job and I could do this publication without her or without him. If you think that someone has contributed but who was not so important, you can include her or him to the acknowledgements. So be very careful, think, be fair, don't be selfish, and place the first author, the one that has done the main contribution. If you have more principal contributors to this job, include them with an asterisk and make a comment. And the last author should be this one that has coordinated the work, is this one that has bring the money, and probably is a supervisor that he has write the paper, but mainly it's the first author. So the authorship, other comments that I can include is like different groups probably have different tradition, who is going to be the first and the last, mainly these two names. The rest of the things, I have analyzed them. To be an author or a co-author, you should at least have done 2 of the followings: contribute, review the paper, respond to the reviewers. These are important work that should be done. Responding of the reviewers mainly happens from the last authors, or some last authors, they place the first author. And in the acknowledgements, as I mentioned, you can capture other contributions that they were not so important. Usually also we have, the role of the corresponding author. And in this case, the corresponding author mainly is the first one or the last one, mainly the last one. Is this one that submits the work? Is this one that establishes the communication and replies to the reviewers during the revision? And, another tip, a rule of thumb is this one, that with the most experience. The affiliation should be something very clear, because I forgot to mention, I mean, if you don't publish, you are perished. The same happens for your institution. You are doing great work. I'm telling you, you are doing great work for your institution any publication that receives citation, even though I will dare any publication, because your affiliation disseminates the university, then the university in the rankings is getting higher and higher and higher. So you are very respected people, not only for your work, but also you are respected through your community, because really you contribute a lot. You contribute a lot for your university. Just to make something clear, I think very much that a great contribution to the university are also good teachers. So in my opinion, and this is Konstantinos Petridis, opinion, like I think that you should combine both roles. You should be excellent tutors, excellent teachers, and also excellent scientists. Science and education is the same thing. I mean, good science produces new knowledge, and this new knowledge is transferred to undergraduate studies, postgraduate studies, in order to educate people to know about the technology developments. But at the same time, good teachers, they train the new people to be motivated to learn this new technology, and these young people, then they are going to continue the research. I don't believe, and I was shocked in some universities, they say, oh, the teaching is for the people that they have failed in research. No, good researchers should be good teachers should be good researchers. It's the same. You are going to become academics, you are going to become supervisors in an industry, so you should, a part of your knowledge, you should motivate the others to continue what are you doing, all right? So to close the story, you are doing a great job for your university through your affiliation. The affiliation, of course, as in the case of the reference, should follow the format of the paper. This is, another example from our group. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, George, please inform me about the time, because I can see my time.
You still have 11 minutes.
11. So I will continue this presentation for my next one, no? So we have the keywords. The keywords are important, and they are working as a supplementary to the title. As I mentioned in the title, you should include the keywords that they are going to make your work more searchable. But if you think that you have not included everything, then you can provide the keywords, and the keywords, they can help your work to be searched and be recognized. Remember, citations. So your keywords is like something that you should pay attention. And we are moving to the next, the abstract. The abstract will be the last thing that you should do, the last thing. Don't follow the series of my presentation, because this is like to explain to you. But in the real life, in the field, the abstract should be the last thing that you are going to write. Why? Because you should summarize everything with usually using 200 words in such a clear way, that the people, that this is the first thing that the people, they are doing, title and abstract, and then figures. The abstract will make them think, wow, this is very interesting. An abstract is like a poster session. In the posters, the people, they decide within 5 to 10 seconds, if they are going to stop to read your poster. It's the same. The abstract should be a piece of art. It should be, something that the people, they say, I will read this job. So it should be the last one, in order to have the clear picture and the clear mind that this is the work that I would like to read. It's the showcase of your paper. It should include somehow very fast the motivation, what was the problem description, and what you have done. How to write an abstract, and probably, as I mentioned, it's the last part to do. It's very helpful to show to the people, what are you addressing, and it should follow this MRCI framework. I will explain to you later on, and should be very concise, 100 to 150 words, in order to make the people to read your work. This is something that you can find everywhere. How a template, but I'm telling you, use your own style, read a lot of abstracts of related work in order to get, the construction, and then summarize everything within 200 words. So now we are moving to the introduction. After the introduction, probably George will stop me. We are going to, if you have any questions, we can reply, and then I will continue, since I think that this is my day. I don't know, George, if he has different plans. So the introduction. The introduction is something that you should start, is the bibliographic research. What are you trying to do in the introduction? I mean, you are placing the line. You are reviewing what has been done, where the line, the borderline between knowledge and non-known is placed. And this is what are you doing in introduction. Now the question is like, wow. So if if I'm going to write something about transistors, should I start to write everything? I will need an encyclopedia. I need Wikipedia in order to do it. No, you should. This is my opinion. If I'm doing a mistake, please feel free to interrupt, to disagree with me. In the introduction, definitely you should review the work of the people that they have invented, they have introduced the job, and also you should include the people that they have contributed major milestones, but also the latest results. These are the work that you should review. And remember, the story and the objective is to set up where is the line, the borderline between known and non-known and not known. And this is the work that you should do in introduction. It's a hard job. You should somehow, it's like to write a mini review in the introduction, a mini review paper, in order to make the story coherent and say like, wow, this is me. I have to propose to the community this work that addresses what the others they have not addressed. So I'm pushing the borderline between known and not known. In the introduction, also at the end of the introduction, you can make a very short comment about the building and what are you going to address in the continuation of your work. It depends on the paper, it depends on the journal. Usually it's not more than 1 page or 2 pages in the case that the manuscript dictates this. It should not be too short, it should not be too long. I think I have commented this. Useful expressions that you can use to address, you should address this issue, the problem and the concern. In this work, blah, 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 we present blah, 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 an approach for, this is something that, other people, they used to propose, but, this is something that, I'm proposing. So in the introduction, your motivation should be clear, and motivation is like what the others they have done and what are your proposal. I mean, through the review, you review and you present the research problem. The others, they have done this, they have answered these challenges, and now we are coming us to answer a non-answer challenge. The review, remember I mentioned to you, it's a short review paper. You are doing the state of the art, and then when you're presenting what are your proposal, you present your approach, your contribution, and the paper organization. George, do you think that I should stop here? I don't know. I thought that I had more time.
We still have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, thank you,
Yes.
George. You are very generous. Thank you, man.
Yes.
Yes. This is like interrogation in the airport police station. Like, where are you from? Yes. What do you know? Yes. All right. Thank you, George. Then we are moving to the motivation. The motivation, I think that I have described this, is like what the others they have not answered, in a very simple words. So the bibliographic research, which people you should include, as I mentioned, you should include, the innovators, the people that they have introduced the technology, and the people that they have done milestones. I can give you an example as it comes to my mind right now. I mean, we're talking here, and George is a world expert, in photovoltaics, third generation photovoltaics, let's say perovskites. There are milestones if you follow the graph of the involvement of the perovskites, that people, they have done excellent job. And you can see this dot, pop, jump, pop, jump, pop, jump. These are the people that you should cite if you have the time and the volume and the space. But this is the work that you should do. Why? Why? This is very important because your paper, where do you think is going to be sent to be reviewed? And the people, they will say, oh no, I have contributed and they forgot to mention me. You are even if this is the minor change, your work is going to be delayed because you have to address, this kind of weakness. So bibliographic research is something very serious. Writing is very serious, and you should address, the innovators. I'm from Laser Guy, so I should say something about Salo and Towns, and then, what I'm addressing. Tools in order to do bibliographic research. Scopus is very reliable. Web of Science, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, which is the Facebook of the researchers, and of course, the journals or editors' websites. So I think that I should stop here because George is going to shout. If there are any comments to do right now, I can address. I can stop sharing and I will continue because I don't know, George. I think that I have plenty of time today to continue.
Yes. But the schedule is that we have a coffee break at 11.
I can have a coffee break. My coffee break is here.
Okay. So let me check the agenda. Of course, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation so far.
Yes, so far because I have not done anything.
We have a lot of things to learn in the next session, so let's check the chat about any possible questions. Yes, there is one from Juan Pablo, and the question is the following: shouldn't be the third author really the first one?
Yeah, correct. I mean, it could be the third author. As I mentioned, what is the name of the colleague?
Juan Pablo.
Juan Pablo, ¿cómo estás? I think it's Spanish. It could be the third author, it could be the fourth author. As I mentioned, it's an expression of equal contribution. So there is a star that mentioned. Of course, you should start by a name. You cannot replace the names. They are placed the names. in series. They are not placed in column. So you can place the star and you can make the comment. The authors with the star, they have equally contributed to this manuscript. With George, I think that we have a couple of papers like this. I hope that I answered your question.
Yes, so thank you for the question, Juan Pablo, and for the answer, Konstantinos. So there is a comment from Zenia Simeonidou. Thank you. It was already very interesting, and we have
already, and we have not started yet.
Yes. So, and a reply from Juan Pablo, yes, thank you, Konstantinos. So another comment from Niseka: in case of equal contributions, are both authors considered as first authors?
Yes. The answer is yes, Niseka, and this can be used in your CV, and the people that checking your CV, they consider you as a first author. There is no second answer on this. This is the only answer. Does the corresponding matter? Yes, the corresponding matter, Mustafa, because mainly the corresponding author or the policy that we are using in our group or in the groups that I have been is then the last author is a supervisor in the majority of the case. Of course, this is not one version story. Plays an important because this is a responsibility to reply to the reviewers. Plays an essential role in order to convince the reviewers that the adjustments are according to their demands. Is important, but I mean it's just like conference papers, journal papers, and book chapters. Journal papers is on the top. Then it's like I don't know, probably book chapters, and then the conferences. So the first authors are the most important contribution, but also the corresponding author. Since he's a very mature scientist, it counts, but it's not so important. I think I would say the authors, the first or the equal author with equal contribution is the most cited, let's say, the champions. I hope that I have answered your question, Mustafa.
Okay, thanks, Mustafa, for the question, and Konstantinos for the answer. Please raise your virtual hand or type the question in the chat if you have one. So I have one, and maybe in this way I will give the time to the other attendees to think about their questions. So, Konstantinos, I have one comment and question at the same time. So, recently we have seen in the literature that, in some, important papers at least, the authors, they put like 4 or 5 equal contributing authors and 4 or 5 corresponding authors. And this is mainly happening in the very highly respected journals. And I heard recently that especially China is going to allow only one, first author and only one corresponding author, or at least they will consider only the first author as a real first author, because when people they are trying to apply for positions, they may be in a journal paper the fifth author, but still with a star as an equal contributing author. And it is really a big issue in the field, because imagine that you have a paper with 5 equal contributing authors. Is it possible that it is really happening, or it is really a policy inside the group? What is your opinion on this?
Yeah, thank you very much, George. As you said, I will say my opinion and what I have experienced until now. Indeed, if you go to astronomy, this depends on the sector. So, if we are going to talk about a very big experiment, and from my knowledge, this happens to the astrophysics experiment, as you can see, like 30, 40 people. This means that a lot of different groups, they have collaborated in order to make this product. So in this case, I can understand why they have a lot of stars regarding the co-contribution, because these are complementary experiments in order to make the story, and also because different groups are involved. That's why probably there are going to be more than one reference, as you mentioned, authors. This is something that I have not experienced, because there is a technical problem there. The journal is going to speak with whom? I can understand why so many first I will say first authors, but it's like the projects in EU, European Commission. There is one supervisor that the European Commission would like to come and have a direct contact with him or with her in order, to address some issues or to make the report for, big consortium projects. So for me, I have never experienced more than one responding authors. In my case, from the technical point of view, this is going to be very strange, because with whom the paper corresponds. But if this is the case, that probably it is, because you are very experienced. In my opinion, this has to do because there are different groups, different supervisors, different funding sources in very big experiments. That's why you have a lot of contribution, and also that's why you have a lot of corresponding authors. But still, for me, probably it's an issue how technically they address this. Probably, all of them, they receive the feedback from the journal, and all of them as a group, they send, the feedback for during the reviewing to the review of the paper. This is my opinion, George.
I think like who is going to correspond to the journal is who is submitting the paper, but in and that's really the corresponding author. But I think in China the main concern is that they put so many equal contributing first authors, and this is especially very important when one student wants to graduate. Maybe they will ask him, okay, I want X number of first authorship papers, and George, it's a bit strange for me.
George, I forgot to mention something, and thank you very much for reminding through your comment. As I mentioned at the beginning, I mentioned the ethical issue regarding who is going to be involved. When you involve people in the authorship of the papers, you are not thinking of your friends. That's why they are friends, to be fair between them and be fair with the others. We are talking about a competition. We are talking that this is the currency of any person that works in academia. You should not include people that they have not done the work, even if your best friends. So even in the case that George has mentioned, even if a student needs this, he should work. She should work. In the market, if you go out, if you don't work, you're finished. So I will say, from ethical point of view, you should not include people that they have not contributed really to the paper. Even if it's the students that they need this, they should deserve in order to receive the results or later on the payment. This is my policy, and I'm not, me as a Kostas, I'm not negotiating this.
Thank you for the answer. So we have another question from Hima Abdelkalder. Is short papers as important as full research papers?
Yes, very good question. I would say, and I can read, the comment, and I will also reply to the second part. I think Hima is the first name. So Hima, a short paper is still a publication. A short paper is something that we are doing in order to, let's say, that this is our work, or to disseminate the work that is coming. George, please remind me, when we submit, when me and you we are submitting paper, we submit the manuscript, and at the same time we submit something in a website in order to say that we are the first ones that we have done. Do you remember, this procedure? I'm getting old and I'm forgetting. But Hima, yes, a short paper is something that is a publication, but also it's very hard to publish short papers, because you should convince the editor that you have a nice story to say in the future. So short paper does not mean an easier publication. I will say a harder publication. So in order someone to accept a short paper in at least in decent journals, this is something that you should convince them that your work is something important and follows. I like that we have Eugene Clark with us, a very experienced scientist with thousands of citations. We usually shy, does not speak, but he's a very good friend with a great scientist from Imperial. I don't know, do we have any other answer? Probably Eugene has a different opinion, but he's a very respectful scientist.
We have another question as well from Nisheka. Since perovskite field is progressing very fast, how to deal with a situation where the ideal or novel concept you have been working on is published by some other group in a community just before you could do?
So just let me, read it again, Niseka, I'm sorry. Since perovskite field is progressing very fast, how to deal with a situation where the idea or novel concept... All right, this is a very good question, Niseka. You are touching a very core point. I will give you, I will use an example in order to answer this question. I mean, in the lab, and I had, George, when he's going to hear my comment, he's going to remind something. In the lab, there are, students or scientists that they would like to do the perfect experiment, the perfect one. So the experiment is like, could last, it could finish in 2 days, but, because they would like to measure everything or more measurements to be introduced, probably it will take 2 months. So here, Niseka comes, it's a balance of experience, it's a balance of also, it's a pressure because of the competition. Try to publish something with a meaning. Don't try to prolong your experiments in order to do the perfect experiment. You will never do the perfect experiment. Another tip that I can give to this answer is publish something and at the same time go, George, did you remember, we are submitting something in order to say that we were the first one. There is a website. Do you remember? Can you remind me? Archive. Yes, thank you, George. So, Niseka, submit. Yes, thank you very much, Konstantinos Andrikopoulos, to the archive. In the case that something is going to be submitted, you have the archive that somehow covers your work. So 2 answers on this very interesting question, Niseka. Don't try to do the perfect experiment. Don't try to be greedy. As I think Steve Jobs mentioned, stay humble, stay greedy, but try to identify when you should stop the experiment in order to publish. It will be nice to in the ideal world, probably in ancient Athens, the people, they are behaving like this, to do the perfect. And this is our duty as a scientist, to be honest, to do the perfect. But this is a competition as well. I hope that I answered to Niseka, and thank you very much, Konstantinos and George, for reminding me about the archive.
Okay, I cannot see Any other question or comment? So thank you very much, Konstantino. There is. No, it's just a comment. Thank you, Professor from
I'm
Niseka.
associate. Thank you, Niseka. Yeah, probably you're looking at the future. I'm an associate professor. I hope one day to become a professor.
Okay, great answer. Thank you very much. So I think probably we can stop here about this very interesting and very informative topic for, especially for our undergraduate and postgraduate students. We are going to publish their work very soon. Yes.
I will continue, George, in the second part because I have not finished the public. This is the first part of my.
Okay, so now in the schedule we're supposed to have a coffee break. So I don't know.
We can have a 10 minutes break in order to continue.
Yes, okay.
I don't know. It's up to you, George. You are the boss.
Yes, sir. So, like, yeah, we can have a 10 minutes break and then we can come back.
Thank you, George.
Start the recording. Okay, great. So now we can restart with the intensive course with the second part of Konstantinos' presentation about.
So,
yes.
How much time do I have now?
So you have until 12:30 CET. So more than not 12:30. Sorry, 15 past 12.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
Okay. So 1 hour more or less. Okay.
All right. I hope now that I will be able to complete. Thank you, George. So I think that, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So I have started, also the recording is on. Thank you very much. And we will continue our presentation in case that we are going to finish earlier, even better, but I will try to conclude this presentation within the time constraints that George has described. So we are continuing the part of the introduction. As I mentioned, in order to summarize and start from where did we stop, introduction is a key element for the success and the publication of your work, because you summarize the story, you include your motivation. It's something very essential for during the review process for the reviewers. But a key element in order to make the review of the story is like the literature review. So literature review, how can happen? Of course, it should not be limitless, because you should review the most relevant and the most significant with a higher innovation regarding research work, and all the references that you are using back up your argument. Another thing that a lot of people, they are doing mistake is like to provide citations to work of their friends or to the work of themselves. First of all, the work of yourself does not count in the citation. Probably it counts in some citation engines, some let's say search engines, but in Scopus, which is the most relevant one, does not count. And in general, self-citations does not count. And some other people, they try to cite the work of their friends, which is also non-ethic. And I will say it's something that is non-ethic, as non-ethic is like to include in the authorship other people. So the references should back up your argument, and there should be balance, not very extensive, not very short, because if in case that is very short, you are not addressing the whole story, and your story is more convincing, because you don't convince the people where is the line of the known stuff, and where is the line, and where is the non-unknown line. So now we are moving to the research problem, and the research problem is something that backups your motivation, is your problem statement. It's like why your work is significant. The state of the art and the related work is like you include the people that they have contributed the milestones. You include the people that they have contributed to manage to push the line, the innovation line, let's name it like this, of known and then non-known. Your approach is an overview summary within the introduction. How did you approach this? What kind of measurements, for example, you have done, and what kind of analysis will be followed? And the contribution is like what your work is contributing. For example, our work has contributed to a significant enhancement of the performance of organic solar cells by so much. And what the strategy that you have followed was before should be very clear. And if you can quantify your result and your contribution even better, because people, they like numbers. This is something that I forgot to say. This is very essential as well. If we had the chance to do how to make oral presentation, this is very much important. The people remember numbers. When you say numbers, the people, they are doing this. Boop, it's something that likes them. And the paper organization, in the following sections, we are going to present our results, and in the contribution, we're going to conclude. This depends on the journals, but I mean, you can read. Reading and writing, another comment that I would like, it is something like, I don't know if you have it in your country, the egg with the chicken. So reading papers helps you to write better papers, because you are getting familiar with the terminology, you're getting familiar how people, they introduce in an already reviewed paper, there are sections, how do they write the introduction. So reading papers is as important as writing papers. So this is a glue exercise, so results, the discussion, so we are moving on. I'm sorry, I have to go back. So what about the results? The results section, we are going to analyze it in a short while. You present what are your results. The main, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is like the figures. The figures is your results. Starting from the figures, invest time on the figures, analyzing the figures. It's like a presentation. A good presentation is the presentation that does not need text. The people look the graph and the figure, and they realize everything. So try to do this figure. The people to look at the figure, and you don't need to explain anything. You don't need, to write, even, 2 lines next to the text. Figure with the figure caption on the bottom or on the top, depending on the journal, is something to say the story. So your results should be very clear. Of course, should very well back up the why in your text. And these are your results. The results should have a sequence. Don't start from the last measurement and then end to the first one. Follow the procedure that someone should follow in order to repeat your results. Your results should be easily repeatable by the others. Because this is the credibility. So other things that you are using, how are the compounds made and characterized, what was measured, this is something. And always, this is very important, that's why I have it in bold, always use past tense in the results. You cannot say, we will have these results, we will do this, we will done this. This is a statement, this is not, results. This can be what you will do in the conclusions or in the discussion. As I mentioned here, I'm moving on because we have resulted. Conclusions, you should summarize you should summarize the conclusions from your results, and also in the conclusions, you should include, in the majority of the case, future potential projects and experiments that they can continue your work, as it's here. Future work and challenges. What are the future challenges of this work? What kind of solutions you are proposing for people to try? And this generates the importance of your work, that your work has continuity. That's why the people, they will read your work in order to continue your work. They are not competitors. Probably they are, but also they can help you because they are going to cite your work. The reference should follow the format of the journal. So it's very important for you to address the journal's format, and should be, as I mentioned at the beginning, complete, the most important work, but not exhaustive. Acknowledgements, this is something that people, they debate a lot. In the acknowledgements, you should include the people that they have a contribution, but even without them, you could publish the work. So a person that has helped you in order to do a measurement, or you have used the equipment, or not the equipment, someone, a technician that has helped you to take the measurements, or it can be included in the acknowledgements. But in general, in acknowledgements, where you include and acknowledge individuals and funding agencies that, you know, they have helped us to do the work, but even without them, the experiment could be done. Very important thing, figures and tables, very, very clear. The way that the people, they are reading the work, I don't know, probably you have a different experience, is the title to be something that it will encapsulate your attention. Then they are moving to the abstract in order to check, you know, what it's about. And then they are moving to figures and tables. As I mentioned, very good figures because the story starts from there, and tables that they contain the units of measurement and contain the figures of merit of your work. Sometimes some journals, they request the table of content, which is a figure that accompanies and appears to the journal website and is related to your work. I think that, you know, I have completed, you know, this presentation about the how to write a paper, George. So let me find the next
let's ask the audience if there is any comment about this final few slides that you just presented.
Yes, and I will find out how to submit your work now.
Okay, so please type any question in the chat or raise your virtual hand.
If there is any question. I don't see any. So let me, let me find, you know, the other presentation. Sorry about this.
No problem.
But today is a special day.
One-man show.
I don't like it. Sorry about this. Where do I have it?
Maybe I can do an announcement regarding the exam. So we will have tomorrow the exams for the participants who are interested to get the certificate of attendance. But since I have received some emails from people who cannot attend the tomorrow's exams, I will send another email for an alternative as well exam that maybe can happen on Saturday sometime, because we would like all the people who participated in the course to be able to attend the exam and get the certificate of attendance.
It's very important to take the exams in order to receive the ECTS for their universities or the diploma supplement, because this course can be included to their diploma supplement if they are using diploma supplement.
There is a comment actually.
Please, George.
From Nisheka. Can you please explain more about table of content, TOC figure? What are key features to make it attractive? All
right. This is okay. I have ready how to submit in order to go on to the next one. Okay, this is a very good question. Look, the table of content is something that summarizes your work. So someone looks, you know, the table of content and can read through this image, can understand what is about this paper. So it's not a figure that summarizes a measurement, it's a figure that summarizes what is about. So it will appear next to the title of your paper when it's going to be submitted, this figure, and through the figure they can realize that you are doing, for example, a review paper in graphene electrodes. And you know, the paper contains all the technology regarding graphene electrodes, or you have a review paper about organic solar cells and the different technologies of the organic solar cells, or the procedure how to build an organic solar cells appear to this kind of figure. So it's a figure that summarizes the whole paper. It's not a figure.
If I can add something to this,
in
some journals it is referred as the schematical abstract, because this is like how you can schematically present in a figure the abstract of your work.
All right. So should I continue with how to submit to the next stage?
Yes.
So thank you. We had invited a very good professor and a very well-cited scientist in order to make this presentation, but unfortunately, because of some changes, he could not make it. So now we are moving to something very, very important, how to submit your work. And as I mentioned before, submission of your work is important. You are writing a paper, but a paper that stays in your drawer is nothing, is not accepted. And to submit your paper, as you can see in this figure, is a whole process. Sometimes it's something very, let's say, unpleasant, but I will say that it's a pleasant process because you are testing your knowledge, you are testing your presentation skills, you are testing your convincing skills. You can hold your selfiness because you will think, oh, why do they don't understand? Don't forget, you publish for yourself, but you publish for the others as well. And these people that they are doing the reference process are volunteers. They are not getting paid. And you should be positive to their comments. You should think of them as your best of your friends, because the comments that you are receiving by them, and you should be positive on this, are comments in order to make your work better, to make your work more recognizable, to make your work more readable. So don't take this a process like, in this cartoon. Of course, at the beginning it looks hard, but I mean, it's a process that makes your paper better in order to be accepted. You have the right to disagree with the comments of the reviewers, but you should do it in a very polite way. Don't, start to shout at them or be offensive. So, I mean, there are, regarding the submission of the paper, just a moment to place my charger. I'm sorry, I'm back. So one of the key issues in order your work to be accepted starts from the submission phase. And the submission in the submission phase, one of the things that you should follow is the format. Or either we are talking about a conference, either we are talking about a journal manuscript, you should follow the format of the journal. And this is essential before you start to write your manuscript, to use the template of the journal and use the format of the journal regarding the sections that you can include, regarding the reference of the figures, how do they address the figures into the text, and also how do they address the citations. There are a lot of types and formats regarding the citation. You should follow the one that the journal is doing. So another thing that probably you should address is what I mentioned at the beginning. If you have decided to which journal you would like to apply, to read a little bit about, information about chief editor's position and research in your manuscript topic, to read about their work, and try, during the introduction letter, as you will see, that should accompany your paper, to write it in a way that's going to be very attractive to his or to her ears. To address some keywords in your introductory letter that are very much related to his or to her work. So let's move on regarding this. Tips, one of the other things that we should do before we submit our work, and actually this has to do very much with the topic that we would like to do. Is like what kind of journal, where to submit our work, in which journal. I suggest to you to use journals that, you know, they have an impact factor, because, and the impact factor, how do we calculate it? You know, usually it's like the average number of citations that a publication in this journal receives after a period of time, 3 or 5 years. Select a journal that is very relevant to your work. So, for example, don't try to publish something in teaching science in a journal that is related with organic photovoltaics, for example, if you know this work. So, yeah, try to identify and mind which journals are the more appropriate for your work. Try to use, you know, and select the journals that, you know, the peer review process is somehow fast. And how are you going to identify this? You can go to the journals website, and you can see various publications that they are already released, and you can check when, you know, a work has been submitted and when the work has been approved. I mean, probably you will say me not everything is the same, because I mean, other authors, there are, even in my case, there are publications that they have been approved as it is, very rare, but it has happened. And there are other publications that probably can take a year. Of course, this depends on the scientific topic, depends on the journal. Usually the open access journal, because you pay fees, the peer review process is fast, but you should combine all of them. Impact factor, topic, how fast is the peer review process, and also you should select a recognizable journal, a journal that is readable, and also it has some credentials. These are the things and the criteria in order to select a journal. Of course, you should take into account that the higher the impact factor of a journal, probably the longer and the more strict is the process during the review of your work. So what is strongly advised before you start your submission? The manuscript to be prepared and follow the format. What do I mean about the format? The font size, the line spacing, how the paragraph appears, how a figure and the figure caption should be appear, what kind of supporting document you should support. For example, the cover letter. Take care of all all the tables that you are going to include, and also before start the submission, think of 3 potential reviewers of your work, at least 3, in order to have them ready and propose them during the submission process. Now, some journals also request some identification of yourself and also of the authors. Mainly, they would like to use the ORCID, or your Google Scholar or your Scopus profile. Before the submission of your manuscript, I strongly advise you to have all the documents next to you or next to your computer. Don't try to identify all the requested documents during the submission phase, because I mean, this will create an extra stress to you. Usually, you know, the submission happens using the online platform. I remember George Kakavellakis has a very nice method on this. During a submission of one of our joint manuscripts, he has created a file in his computer where all the requested documents were there. And during the submission phase, he was placing one by one the files, but he has done the work before the submission. So this is a good policy to follow. Collect all the requested and supporting documents to a file, to the computer, and then try to do the uploading of this file during the submission. Now, when you are managed to submit the things, of course, before you should know what is the peer review process, but usually what is happening, your paper is submitted, is checked by some, let's say, bureaucrats or some administration staff. And what do they check? They check if you follow the format. Just this, if you follow the format and if you have placed, the requested document. Then the cover letter and the paper goes to the editor. The editor is someone very experienced. He's a very well-known scientist. He's familiar with your topic, and reading your cover letter, he can decide if your work is appropriate for this journal and if your work deserves the attention to be forwarded to the editors, to the reviewers. Then, depending on the journal, the most prestigious journals, they have more reviewers. They review your work. They check if your work is innovative. They check about spelling mistakes, which is the last one. They review if they are convincing that your motivation is the appropriate one. And then they are coming back, in the majority of the cases, with some comments. Either these comments are related or linked with the expression minor changes, which mainly has to do with typos or some references, that they suggest, or it's a major revision that you should do some extra measurements or you should provide some extra explanations regarding your results, or unfortunate, and this has happened to everyone, and I will tell you how to handle this, rejects. And if your work is going to be rejected after the editor, something major has happened, and you should revise sometimes the whole experiment, or you should provide more and more kind of measurements in case that you are your work is innovative. So after the submission and the receipt of the comments of the reviewers, think of the reviewer someone like that he would like or she would like to help you to publish your work. Never think of yourself. I know at the beginning, especially in the Mediterranean area that I'm coming, the first reaction is like, what the fuck? He does not know what, why he does not understand, what I'm talking. Oh, no. The guy probably does not know the topic. No, this is not the right attitude. Read the review report, and if you are hot-tempered, as I am, it's better to close your computer, go a walk, go for a coffee, come back to your computer the next day. Try to convince yourself that these are the comments that they are make your work better. Don't start to think, oh, he would like to delay my work because he's a competitor. He would like to do this because he does not like me. Oh, probably because I'm not coming from MIT, that's why he's not interested about my work. No. These people are people like you, the majority of you are people that they are very busy, and they are doing this because this is a part of our job. It's a part of our work. If we would like to publish, we should review work of the others and vice versa. So take this very seriously and try to review them and respond to them appropriately. Now, the question on this transparency is to suggest reviewers. Remember at the beginning, when you are starting to prepare your manuscript, when you are ready to submit, think of these 3 possible reviewers before. It will be very nice to suggest, people that they are innovators in this work, but probably, they are very busy. What we are doing, we are suggesting this. We suggest reviewers that they are on the topic of this topic. We have read their work. Sometimes we have included their work, and actually, this is a good criteria to include their work in your reference because it's important. So these are the people that you should include. Of course, you should not include your supervisor. You should not include your collaborator in another project. These are, that's why a lot of papers, they ask you when you suggest about reviewer if there is any conflict of interest with them. Of course, pick real experts in the field in order to have a review report with a meaning, and try also, as I mentioned, to include innovators in this field to review your work. That's why you should include their work. Usually, in the majority of the papers, actually, I don't know any journal in my case that I did not need this. I did not need this, is the cover letter to the editor. So what you are trying to do in this cover letter, you should convince the editor that your work deserves the attention and deserves to be published. So this is another soft skill, because the research and soft skills is one thing. When you know how to write, when you would like to know how to make a presentation, definitely you have convincing abilities. You have presentation skills. So take all your art in order to explain to the editor without being liquor. You should be polite, but also you should be clear and use good statements about your motivation, that your work has a contribution. And this is something that the editor will appreciate. Also, try to convince them that your work is related to their journal. Is related because your prestigious journal is working and examines and presents developments in specific technology. And also sometimes you can say to them that it's very urgent because of the impact and the importance of the work, your work, to be published as soon as possible. This is the figure of, this is something, an example of a cover letter that we used in our case. And also this is like documents that, or an image, I'm sorry, that we have used with our cover letter in order to back up that what we are reviewing in this case is important, and this importance is shown by the number of publications of this topic that we present here. This has to do with the graphene in perovskite solar cells, and we show that with this figure the impact by the number of graphene applications in perovskite solar cells to the editor. So now, how is the peer review process? The peer review process depends on the journal. In the majority of the cases, the reviewers are 2, or could be 3, or could be 5, depending on the journal. The acceptance ratio depends on the journal, could start from 5% to 70%. You can understand that the higher the impact factor of the journal, probably the acceptance ratio is getting lower. But this is up to you. Don't take it, don't feel discouraged to apply to such a journal, because this is like, then later on you are going to be proud. The review process also depends on the journal, and sometimes depends also on the topic. In order the review process to be fast, there should be a number of experts, and a number of experts that are available in order to review your work. So it can start, from a week, can be a month, can be even several months. And also try to read. There is the reviewers, you are receiving the review report that should be very accurate, and this depends on the expertise of the reviewers and how much time do they spend. Try to appreciate very much detailed review reports, because these people, they have spent their work for you, and of course you don't know your reviewers. These are, comments to the author as they have been received, and also, this can have, it has a number of, it's like an email body or an attachment. Why, something could be rejected? First of all, because of the wrong format. Second, you don't have a story to say, you don't have a motivation. Motivation is something that should convince your grandma. Your grandma should read your motivation in the introduction and could say, yes, I will read the rest of it. It should be something that needs experience, and you should convince them, because motivation should be linked with a novelty, because you are the first one that you are doing this. Remember the line, the known and the non-known. You have not included, work of the innovators. So the people, they think that you have done an incomplete work in the introduction. This has to do with the poor citations. You are not you do not explain well the methodology, the experimental methodology, if this is requested, and you have poor figures. Poor figures, it's, I think, with the lack of motivation, because you have not described your motivation, because I suspect in order to start an experiment, you have a motivation. This is the most important. I will say that it's very rare to select a wrong journal for your paper. I don't think so that among us there's someone that is involved in perovskite technology and he's going to a teaching science journal to speak about problem-based learning about this. I mean, if you don't link it, it's like very hard. And also, even though that everyone respects that you try to speak English and write in English, you should send your paper before the manuscript to people to do the proofreading. And this is the work actually of your supervisor, the last author, remember, the last author. It's something that he should do in order to correct these grammatical or syntax errors. Now, this is, something about high rejection ratio based to the bibliographic research and experience. Rejection after the review, comments. I mean, if your paper is going to be rejected, so this means that you don't receive something under minor changes, or if you don't receive something under major changes, because it's something that shows to you that somehow the paper will be published. But if you are going to receive rejection, usually the people or the industry, because we're talking about an industry here, they are going to say, oh, this paper is interesting, but it's more interesting to this daughter journal of our journal. So probably you are going to submit in Nature, but they are going to say to you, it's not for Nature, it's Nature about Nature photonics. This is good, or it's about Nature electronics. So, I mean, this is something that, the editors and the editorial boards and the journals, they follow. Another thing is like for rejection, for fully rejection is like that you need additional experiments to do, or this is major, probably. Improve your English in the manuscript and failure to cite an important work. So this is something about rejection. So the word rejection, try to see rejection with major revision, rejection with minor revision, or full rejection that probably in the best of the case, they send you to a daughter journal. How are you going to handle the rejection? Certainly, don't suicide yourself. This is not the end of the work. Turn off your computer, lower your temper, and come back the next day to read the comments again and again. Write your replies if this is something that can be done in a manuscript, in a draft, and then do the work, the extra work, or provide extra explanations and elaborate, the reviewers to understand your work. This is going to be very good for the readers as well, because they are going to enjoy the journal. Don't take it personally. No one is rejecting your work because they don't like you. If this happens, this is unethical from the other side. This is the game here, the rules of the game to be ethical, and this kind of ethical rules applies also to the reviewers. Another thing that is very important, and I forgot to mention, is like when you are making your review, when you are responding to the reviewers, I think I have it later on, be direct. Don't write too much words, that they are not linked with the answer. I like very much, I will say, the German side, that they are direct. They give an answer direct to the question. All right, and this helps the reviewer to do the work fast. As I told you, they are doing this work on top of all their duties, and also they help them to understand what are you doing. So respond to the reviewers. Read very carefully the review letter. Don't take it personally. Highlight the comments that they are going to say during your review. Say, dear sir or madam, please find below our review to your comments. Copy the comment, and the comment starts from however. Probably they are going to say this is a very nice measurement. However, we need more explanation and more justification of your results. So try to identify through the review letter the word however, because this is the comment. This is where you should answer the question. And so copy this however, and then your response. Also, the majority of the journals, they request two types of resubmission. One with the comments to be tracked and a clear manuscript. So they need, to address on the manuscript your response to the reviewers, and then a clear of comments to the reviewers' manuscript. Always be polite, be direct, but be polite, and don't be apologetic. Sorry, oh, what a mistake I have done. Oh my God, what a stupid thing on me. No. Say, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your comment. George is going to laugh now. But this is our reply. Thank you very much for the comment, because your comment made our work more clear. This is our reply. So copy the comment and then make your response below this comment. So about how to make the editor's life easier, I mentioned before, insert your comment to the manuscript that the comments of the reviewers appear, and then a manuscript with comments and a clear manuscript. The resubmission phase. As I mentioned, a clean resubmitted manuscript should be submitted with the comments as well, and then you are going to write also an editor cover letter to say to them that we have responded to the comments of this manuscript, and please revise our work. This is, an example that I'm providing. I think that I will share, and George will share all the presentations with you. This is in our case. In our case, usually, sometimes we disagree. You can disagree with the comments of the reviewers, but be polite in your disagreements. Don't say, no, these are bullshits that you are saying. I mean, do you know all other answers? Do you know the topic? What are you doing? No, you should be respectful. You should not be licked, but you should be respectful. And you can say, thank you very much for your comment, but we believe that what we support, or what did you say, is not directly linked of what we would like to say. So disagree in a positive way. Otherwise, the people, they are going to be offended. As you know, in academia, there is a lot of ego, and you don't want to go against this ego. You want your work to be published. And but if you can disagree, I think that the people, they appreciate, because probably you will help them to facilitate their understanding of your work, and also to facilitate them to learn more things. If this is going to happen, you are going to send your manuscript is going to be rejected in the majority of the case, and then you are going to do the review. Then I think that in the majority of the cases, you are going to receive such a kind of letter. You can see a name over there. This is the last author, not the last author, I'm sorry, the corresponding author. So the corresponding author will receive this email, and everyone will be happy. Before the publication, usually, the journals, they send you to check the final and before published manuscript. You should check the affiliations again. And this is something that you should do. If you are missing something, also you have time as well to suggest, but not major changes are allowed at this stage. Additional decisions to get made by the authors. I mean, in the case, in the old days that you could answer for a number of reprints, paying for an open access, you can do it, or even pay for, if, now the journals they are doing, for a coverage, to be on the front coverage or to be on the back page coverage. So, these are something that is related with the course that we're doing in the class. So I think, George, I think I have finished as well this kind of session. I think I'm on time, no?
Yes, thank you very much for the interesting presentation. So I think we have time for questions. Are you going to present anything else?
Do you want me to stay here for the whole day? I can do it.
Yes.
If I will have a break, I don't know how much break do we have. I can make also another presentation about how to make oral presentations, which is also, I think, important for the audience. But it's up to you, George.
So we up to the I mean, scheduled Q&A session. We still have another 20 minutes.
I think it's better the people to have, earlier break, no? I cannot make it in 20 minutes.
Yes, but the next speaker is going to start at 1:30 CET.
So how much time do we have before the next speaker to come?
1 hour and 30 minutes.
Okay, let's have a 10 minutes break after, the questions in this section will be appeared, and I will do the oral presentation as well.
Okay, so
or the time management depends on you. Let's let the audience to
maybe
vote.
We can place yes. So I think I can create a vote. Let me see. Okay, let's see first the question from the audience. Hima Abdelkader. A major problem in paper processing is time. Some journals take few weeks, others take few months. Is there a way to get journals processing time?
Sorry, I know. Thank you very much for the interesting question. As I mentioned, during the processing time depends on the topic. There are topics that a lot of scientists they are getting involved, let's say photovoltaics, and there are other topics like teaching science that there are not so many people involved. So the availability of experts to review your submitted work could be varied because of the topic. Also depends on the journals. There are the open access journals because there is a fee. Usually the processing is faster, independent of the topic. How are you going to check, how much time it will take for you in order to submit your work? Because also this should be one of the criteria to select a journal, a part of its quality. I mean, the quality, a part of its impact factor. You can check it by going to the websites of the journals and check, a lot of publications or some of them to check what was the submission time and what was the publishing time. So over there, you can get an estimate how much does it take for this particular journal to publish. So what is the processing time of the publication that this particular journal demonstrates? I hope that I answered the question. If not, keep insisting.
Thank you very much for the answer. Any other question or comment? So I don't see one. So thank you very much, Konstantinos. Can you please mention which are the two options for the next presentation?
I think that the most relevant one is like oral presentation, because a lot of students, they are doing oral presentations in conferences or oral presentations for their work. Or, I would say one of the things that academia suffers is the time management. So it's up to...
Okay, I will try to place a poll, and in 10 minutes we come back.
All right, there is a question. Can you share your experience on making graphical abstract highlights? Oh, very good question. Usually, Kovidarach, I'm sorry, I think that I have not pronounced correctly your name. If you have someone in your lab that he's very good in using Canva or is using any design kind of software, use them, because this image should... it's like your posters. If you have participated in poster sessions, should capture, the interest of the people, and also should include the whole story in one image. So you need someone with an experience and competence how to use this kind of software like Canva. It's one. Probably you know more than them, in order to have the technical ability to read and capture your idea using the right colors, using the right figures, using the right sequence of how the image appears in order to do a very good graphical abstract highlight. I don't think so that all the journals they request to such a talk figure, but it's nice to have. If I have not answered your question, please come back to me.
Thank you very much for the question, and Konstantinos for the answer. Okay, I cannot see another one, so thank you very much for the very interesting and detailed presentation. So now I will try to launch the poll for the two different. One is the how to present your work, and the other is the time management. So please reply to this poll, and then after 5 to 10 minutes we can have a. So how long will be this presentation, Konstantinos?
No, I will try to use, like 45 minutes. There is another question from Mohammed. A question outside the scope, but it is mandatory to have first author publication to get a PhD scholarship. Look, Mohammed, and I think that, someone else has mentioned this question, and I forgot to answer this. I mean, this depends on the university. When I started my PhD, I should have 3 publications in order to receive my PhD. This was, I think, 2 of them I should be first author. This depends on the institution, but I mean, I must have does not answer the story. You should do the work in order to have these publications. So a question outside the scope, but it's mandatory to have a first. This depends on the institution, Mohammed. So this varies from institution to institution, probably varies, I would say institution to institution, not from country to country. I don't know, we have here, I don't know, because he does not speak usually on the chat. In St. Andrews, George, I don't know what was the policy in University of Crete. We needed to have at least 1 publication, 2 publications as a first authors, but at least 3 publications in order to be qualified to have our PhD thesis. To have our PhD thesis viva. But I'm a co-author in 10 published. I think that you should try, Mohammed, to be a first author at least in 1 of them. But you should ask your supervisor what are the process. George, what was the policy in the University of Crete?
I think minimum 1 first authorship, as far as I remember. For example, in Cambridge University, you can get a PhD without any publication. You can have your. So it depends from university to university.
Yeah, in Hellenic Mediterranean University for PhD students is 1 at least first author in a journal, in a manuscript with an impact factor.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mohammed, for the question and Konstantinos for the answer. So I will launch now the poll. And
okay, George, I'm going to drink some water and I'm coming back. The last one. This is going to be the last one.
Okay, so thank you very much. I will keep it open for maybe one minute. Okay, I see that more than 50% of the participants already replied to our poll, so I will end it now. I think you can now see the results. So 68% of the participants participated, and there is a clear message. The clear, winner for our next topic will be how to present your work with 67%. So I think it's a very important topic, especially for people who would like to attend conferences, or how for people who would like to present in a group meeting, or people who would like to defend a thesis such as a master thesis or a PhD thesis, or in the future, if you are in a company and you would like to pitch your work in a startup company. So I think it will be a very important one. It's not mandatory that you stay. In 20 minutes, we're supposed to have a break. It will be an added value for our school. So in any case, it will be recorded. So you can also watch this, lecture offline when we will share this, recording. So I will stop this poll now. And I think Konstantinos will join us again in 2 minutes to start this presentation. Okay, so I don't know if Konstantinos, you have seen the results of our poll. So by 67%, the winner was how to present your work.
Excellent.
33% for time management. So there is a clear message from the audience about the next presentation.
Okay, so give me a few seconds to download the respective presentation.
I mentioned to the participants that this is like an added value for our course, and that's why I highly recommend everyone to participate. But in case you would like to go for lunch or a coffee break, you can watch the presentation later on offline. When we will share this with you.
So I'm just preparing the presentation. Okay, give me 30 seconds. So let me share my screen. I hope that you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. So let's go on with the last presentation of today from me. Let's see. So an important, as I told you, it's very important to present your work. One aspect of presentation of your work is the written format, and I think that the last 2 hours we try to give you the main tips to remind you some steps and answer some questions regarding publication, written type publication, written format publications. And now we're moving in something else, oral presentations. In ancient Greece, we have the term rhetor. I hope that you can understand. A rhetor is someone that can convince, the people about himself, about his work. So oral presentation is something like this. It's something that, in my opinion, we should engage our students in oral presentations from the first day and the first hour of their work in life, or in the first time of their life in the universities. But I think that we're not doing in the majority of the cases. At least when I was an undergraduate student, I have never been called to do an oral presentation. Only during my final thesis project. Because of sports and because I was playing basketball, I was quite extroversial. So I had no problem to do it. But I can see even now professionals, colleagues of mine, I have to say that, yeah, I mean, they're terrible presenters. And this is a pity, because they know so many things that, I mean, because of their presentation skills are poor, they are not managed to transfer all this knowledge and inspire the people in the audience. So oral presentations, as you will see, is a mixture of knowledge of what are you presenting, because you should be confident. Is a combination of rhetoric skills, and also is a matter of some techniques. How are you going to prepare your slides? How are you going to engineer your presentation? Also is a story. You have a story. And as you will see, in order to start your presentation, the first 2 slides, it's important because you should capture the attention of the audience. What is your motivation and why they should listen to you? I will say the opposite. I would say you should convince the audience why they should stay there and listen to you. And this should be very clear from the very beginning. Mistakes that happens in the opening of oral presentation is like to say your name. Your name appears in the first transparency. What you should say is like your expertise to the related topic that you are going to present. And always the people, they love numbers. So try to show your motivation with numbers, with a picture. A good presentation is the presentation that does not need a backup wording. So probably you don't have even to speak in a good presentation, because the images and the way that the presentation is engineered is enough for the people to understand. This is very much related with the figures. Remember, what did we say about publications? So in the subtitle of this cartoon, you can see something that comes from Harvard Business Review. 7% is the wording and 93% is how to say. So it's a great skill. It's a great skill to develop by yourself anytime. It's a very good soft skill. Soft skills is some non-technical skills that you should have in order to thrive your career. A short comment about the soft skills is the following, that as your maturity and as your establishment in a company, in a university is evolving, what do you develop is not technical skills, it's your soft skills. So a good supervisor is a supervisor, of course, he's a professor there, he has the knowledge, but also develops these management skills, these convincing skills, these presentation skills, in order to inspire and the whole group to follow him or her, not to follow as a Muppet, but to follow him or her as a collaborator, communicate with him, have trust to him, be transparency, and etc. So one of the most important things for the students, I think, is the presentation skills and how to present their work, and think that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Presentation skills and oral presentation skills is the moment that you have up there 100 people, or in this case 48, or depends how many they are in the microphone, or they follow me, even 20, even 10. You have a unique chance to synchronize all these minds and all these interests to you. So it's a great skill to have, and it's a great skill to develop. What I'm going to present, of course, is my tips from the bibliography, and also tips that we have tested. So the outline of this talk is like why to present, types of presentation, mainly the types of presentation span with the time duration of them, ingredients of a good presentation, tips for an excellent presentation, how to prepare a presentation regarding the preparation, the colors, the themes that you are going to use using, for example, PowerPoint, and conclusions. So why to present? I mean, obviously, why to present? Because you would like to disseminate your work. You would like to present because you would like to build and disseminate your work and build at the same time your reputation. The way that you can develop your presentation skills are numerous, but my suggestion, and when I would like to get inspired myself, is like to follow TEDx Talks. TEDx Talks is an excellent tool, because in the TEDx Talks, all the TEDx Talks, they combine accuracy, they have the right body language, and also you can see very clear and very fast the motivation and what do they propose. So my suggestion to any student, if you have the chance to make an oral presentation, do it. Some of us, probably we are shy enough, and we say like, oh, what I'm going to do, overcome it. The sooner, the better. Don't worry about English. I don't know what kind of nationalities do we have here. I can see that we have Spanish people, people from India, people from Arab countries, if I remember well the names, Greek students or Greek colleagues. Don't worry about English, because there are a lot of people say, my English is not good. You are not Englishmen. You are Englishmen. You have not born in the UK. You are not from the United States. Imagine someone to try to do a presentation in Arabic or make your presentation in Hindu. You are going to feel very proud, no? The same happens with the people from UK and USA when they saw and appreciate a lot your effort to present something in English. So the more the trials that you are going to do, and you will see that this is one of the main tips in order to do the presentation, is to, before you actually give the presentation, you need, I think, I would say 5 to 10 times to make trials of your presentation. Of course, how many times you're going to do it depends on your experience, but it's something that the more trials, the better the presentation, the more fluent the presentation. If you learn how to make a good presentation, of course, you develop other soft skills very much related with your career, like time management, like justification, backing up, how to empathize the question and the answer and the interest of the audience. So do it. As I mentioned, by ancient Greeks, Aristotle says that be a rhetor is very important for your job, for your supervisor, as a collaborator, because you can influence and you can motivate people. So types of presentation, as I mentioned, this depends on the duration. In management, and also, I'm not a manager, I'm a laser physicist, but reading, about management. In business, sometimes because of the time pressure. You need to convince your boss, you need to convince a customer very fast. And this is the elevator pitch. So in a minute, in less than a minute, you should explain the motivation, you should explain your solution, and you should explain why your solution is best to be followed among other possible. And this is called the elevator pitch. So it's a very fast verbal message. Another kind of presentation is the pitch presentations that also are short presentations, 10, let's say 15 minutes, that you describe in a little bit more details what you are trying to do in the elevator. But it's one story. It's the same story as writing a paper. There is a problem, there is a challenge, there is a suggestion how to overcome this challenge, and why this challenge and this suggestion and this solution is attractive regarding its innovation, but also regarding its financial, let's say, sustainability. And then, and this is the most usual kind of presentation, the full type of presentations, like this one or the ones that you are going to be called during your thesis. A full presentation should contain the following. I think an outline in order to help the people to follow your talk, even though that they have missed some part. As in the case of papers, the motivation, what is the challenge and what are the importance of what do you propose, the proposed solution, future developments, always the people, they like to hear about future developments, conclusions, and let's move now to the ingredients. So content is very important. You should be concise, you should address the topic that you're addressing with the appropriate use of content, how you will say this, but also the design, colors, images. It's better to have more images than text, but of course, not only images, unless you are an artist. So the essence of an excellent presentation, a lot of people, you know, at the beginning, they were asking me who is going to be the audience. And I was, at the beginning, I was saying, why do they care? It's very important to know the audience because this sets up the level, the difficulty, the details that you are going to present. So it's different to present, let's say, lasers in undergraduate students, postgraduate students, or PhD students that are already involved in lasers. You can see the same topic should be analyzed completely different, and the length of the presentation also varies. So you should know the audience. You should know who are going to be down there. Are they going to be only students? They are going to be students and academics. They are going to be research students. They are going to be people from industry, different kind of language that you are going to use. You should identify to the people why are you talking, why they should listen to you. You should outline your talk, and you should find a story. Again, the same story as with a written format. Telling a story is very important because people remember two things. They remember numbers and stories. You are young people, but you still remember your grandmother to tell you stories. You remember stories. So your presentation should be like story. As I mentioned at the beginning of our interaction today, telling a story nowadays is a profession, is an art. All the politicians, they have some people that they're writing stories about them. The same should happen in research. Sometimes before you start the presentation, try to do some exercises in order your voice to be clear. So this has to do the warm-up. Research the room, because sometimes we are very much affected. There are people that they are feeling very comfortable to do a presentation in a classroom, and then when you are going to place them in the amphitheater or in a very big classroom, you know, they are feeling completely uncomfortable. They are feeling stressed. So try to research the room. This research of the room can happen one day before, you know, your oral presentation. Test, you know, the technical support of presentation, and try to get focused, drink some water, and I will give you more tips how to address your anxiety. Body language is very important. You should, in order to convince the people that they should listen to you, you should be confident. And confidence comes from how do you speak, but also how do you stand, the body language. You should look your audience. Never return your back at your audience. You should regulate the rhythm of your voice. So this is something that is very much related with the body language. And sometimes we will come to the dressing code, but the dressing code has to do with the event. And how are you going to identify what kind of dressing code we are going to use? Try to identify pictures from the conference, check out, how the people are get dressed, ask your supervisor, but you should adapt it to the whole environment. As I mentioned before, try. So I will say to you, especially if you're a beginner in oral presentations, or if somehow you're feeling stressed, how to give oral presentation, go try it with yourself. Try it in front of a mirror. Call a friend of yours to try the presentation at least 7 to 10 times before you are going to actually give the presentation. You should explain at the beginning why they should listen to you. I mentioned before, your tone and your energy should not be constant. You cannot be all the time for 45 minutes. You should, wake up the people. You should look at them. Now it's a little bit challenging through the online sessions, but this is part of the game. I mean, at least try to play, think that you are in front of an audience. Tone is very important also, not only to capture the attention of the people, but also to highlight the main comments of your presentation. You should respect the timing. It's very important to be on time. Otherwise, and timing does not have to do like you are going to finish your presentation on time, but also to give time to the audience to ask you questions. You have to do a storytelling. An objective is like to capture the emotion of your audience. This is very important. Capturing the emotion of the emotion of the audience will drive to you. Now there is a challenge. If you can see someone that is boring you with your presentation, try to retract his attention by your voice, or sometimes ask a question. Or if you are influenced too much on this, try to focus to a person that is positive to you. And the safe house for this are the moderators. The moderators, at least they pretend that they are positive. So in order to get your confidence back, look people that they will help you psychologically to come back. Don't speak too fast. Sometimes appreciate stopping your presentation for a time, because this is a process. In order you are transmitting, let me see if I have a laser. The people, you transmit the information, and this depends how good reader you are, how well you have prepared your slides. This information goes to the attendees. The attendees receive the information. They need to process the information, so to do the decoding of what you are presenting them, and then code and understand what are you doing. So if you are speaking too fast, or you are not, how can I say, you are not clear, I mean, the people, they are not going to follow. And this is essential. This is essentially, particularly in long presentations like this one. So get well prepared, present yourself as a sort of an expertise, start with a strong outline and the motivation. Usually the motivation should be numbers or figures. Focus, try to convince yourself that the presentation, as the paper journals, are for the others. You try to educate, you try to train the others. Speak more and show less. This has to do with how many text should accompany your slides. Remember, a good presentation is this one, that just the slides explain everything. And another thing is like try to show up early in where the presentation will happen. It's not nice people to wait for you. Remember always the Murphy's Law. So that's why when you're going to the conferences or you are in the place, in the venue earlier, try to upload your presentation and check if your PowerPoint is on the version that the organizer's computer is. Try also to have with you the PDF, because PDF is a safety for you, especially if your animations does not work. So try to be early, and try also to get your audience involved to your problem, but this it has already been mentioned. Provide time for the audience to ask questions. So this has to do with respecting your time. By your trial, you know your presentation very well and you are expert on this. And if this is possible, try to engage your audience, look at them, regulate your audio, include tools like Mentimeter or Kahoot, make them be active in your presentation, mainly if we are doing lectures or if the presentation is something within the classroom or even in your master's thesis, you can try this. What are the mistakes that people they are doing? Too much text. I have been presentations full of text, nothing like an image. The people they read just the text. If you have too much text, you are losing the attention of the people, and because the people they have to follow the text, you are boring. I mean, your voice, your face is the same. You don't look at them. You just look, not look at them, but look, somewhere in the room. This is the best best of the cases, or rotate your back. I have seen this case. So try to engage emotionally with your audience by engaging them, by trying to attract their attention. Don't use jargon, don't use dirty words. I mean, I don't know how many of these rules that I'm teaching you I have followed. And do not waste your time speaking about yourself. The people, they can read your name in the front page, and try to respect the time, especially the time for Q&A session. So this has to do with the body language. These are images from real life. And let me explain some things, because it's different to do this in a class. She has rotated. She does not pay attention to anyone. She's obviously very stressed. These are things that you cannot do. And what about the later impact? This is overconfidence. This does not show respect. This is a body language that says, this guy, I'm too smart and you are too dumb. This is the way. This is not a respect. Sometimes, of course, we are not doing this in purpose, but your body language plays a very important role, shows also your respect, shows also that you are expert on what are you going to present. So now, how to prepare a good presentation. The colors and the PowerPoint theme that you are going to use, or other kind of software that you are going to use, are very important, should be relevant to the topic that you are going to present. So try to engineer the PowerPoint template very well in order to match the content and the topic. But you don't have to break your mind. There are already custom PowerPoint themes that you can use. So if these PowerPoint themes are not appropriate for you, or is not well customized for your needs, of course, you can use the master slide in order to place the logos of the conference, the logos of your group, the logos of your university in order to make the presentation. Try to use one format for captions, sub-captions for the text, but all these kind of settings, they can be set up in the master slide. Sometimes the people are a little bit far away than the distance that right now I myself. So try to use at least fonts of 18, or try to check the font size of your presentation. Go, let's say, 5 meters from the screen and try to be able to read what are you reading. And essential, don't make your presentation a report. It's something that it is not going to work. So make a roadmap for your presentation. This is very important. As I said, the outline, but make the roadmap also to present as a title, because the people they help try, do not overload. Do not say, be confident on yourself. Don't say like, oh, it's my first time that I'm doing this presentation, I'm really sorry. Don't do this, because then the people, they will never follow. Figures, images, and text, but don't overdo it. Remember that, your slides as a reminders, the more you try, the more you are based on your presentation slides. You need to have a story. You need to say why you are doing the things. So other things, sometimes, you know, this is very funny, and I'm doing this mistake right now, but this is just like training that I'm doing to you. It's like avoid bullets. Bullets are for the war. Try to use less of them. And also sometimes the people, we should ask how long time do we have for the presentation in order to know how many slides we are going to use. Yesterday I was in a meeting and I received from one of the presenters, she had 10 minutes and she sent me 65 slides. This is impossible. Even if you are lucky, you know, it's impossible to make 65 slides, you know, in 15 minutes. Now, towards towards the end, you know, I will give you some tips about the colors. Colors are very important. You should use colors appropriate to the theme. So whatever colors you are using in your presentation slides should fit and should match the character of the event that you are going to present. Don't use too many colors. It's like tutti frutti, otherwise it's not serious. But try to use at least, I will say, 3 colors, not more, in order to do your work. And also the colors that you are going to use, I repeat myself, should match the event. Regarding now the typography and what kind of fonts you are going to use, be consistent. Be consistent on the size and the font size that you are going to use in the titles of your slides. Be concise on the paragraph style that you are going to use in the main text, the font size of your main text. And these are things that you should follow from the very, very beginning, and something that if you know how to use the master slide in PowerPoint or other kind of software that you are using, try to define this from the very beginning in order to not have to do the same job in each slide. So I mentioned this. Readability, I have already mentioned. Regarding the font size that you should use, do the following test. Go 3 or 5 meters from your computer and try to read it. And this is a test for your audience to check if your presentation is readable. The figures should be very clear. It's not only the font size, it's also the image and the size of the images that you are going to use. The text should be clear, as I mentioned before. The paragraphs should have the appropriate line space. I suggest you 1.5 line space is enough. So this is done. About images, remember what did we say on the papers? Your images should be clear because everyone likes images. The whole story should come from your image, and the people should read your image and should understand the story. Remember, the ideal presentation, oral presentation, it should be this one that someone, but only by looking the slides, can understand your story. It's the same with the images. Remember, in the manuscript, the people, if they can understand your image, your figures, they are going to read your paper. The numbers you should use, if you are using numbers, you know, at least you should use, you know, the same accuracy in everything that you are developing. Units are also very important for the graphs or for tables. Also, the numbers should represent the quantity that they describe. So if you are talking about elections, 65 does not say anything. But if you say that not Donald Trump, the other one, the president of the United States has received 65% of the votes, this has a meaning. If you say 65, does not say it. So I mean, or if you are going to make comparisons, he stole, no, does not say anything. He stole compared to this, in order also to give an accuracy. So when you are using numbers, try to use the appropriate numbers of the appropriate process or event that you are presenting. The structure, of course, you should have a story to say. So the structure of your presentation should follow the story, an introduction, motivation, results, conclusions, for example. How to prepare a presentation regarding the chapters. You can see over there an example that I have given to you. So you should define from the very beginning what are the main chapters, what kind of information you are going to include under, you know, these chapters, and then you are developing your slides. Now we came, and I think that we have discussed this before. This is one of the biggest stress of the people to do presentations in public, the English. So my tip on this is like practice, 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 and don't worry about your accent. Don't worry about any grammar mistakes that you are going to do. The more you practice, you are going to correct this, the more confident you are. Sometimes I don't like to say to my students, memorize it. No, don't memorize your presentation, but it's essential to memorize the first, I will say, 2-3 slides, because this will provide you with the confidence that you have the rhythm, and this is accepted. Sometimes you should, as I mentioned, you should pause. You should respect the silence of the audience, because as you remember, you transmit an information, the information should be captured, processed, and decoded. And this takes time. So you should take time in order to pause. This also helps you to control your anxiety because you are speaking a foreign language, or you can drink a couple of water. You can have a water next to you in order to make, this short break. So regarding now the questions, of course, this is a similar case. And if you compare, oral presentations and written presentations, they have the same principles. It's one story. When you are during the Q&A session, try to be polite and accurate in your answers. Another thing that, I'm advising myself and advising my students is like, even though that you think that you know the answer, let the speaker, the person that asked the question to finish. This is very important. This has to do with your active listening. Don't let your enthusiasm to provide an answer. In the majority of the cases, he would like to ask something else, even though that you are feeling too confident. Let the people to end their questions, give some time to yourself in order to give a very confident answer. And also this is a trick in order to have less questions from the audience. Of course, sometimes the more the questions, the better, because this shows, an impact of what do you say to the audience. Another thing is like, probably through your presentation, you can engineer the questions that they are going to ask you. So say the important things, be clear, but leave, some things a little bit unclear technically, because you know that the people, they will ask this, and this also builds your confidence during the Q&A session. If you have been asked a question that you don't know, immediately say this, thank you very much for the question. Let me think the answer, because I'm not so confident about my answer. I will reply to you later on. And, the most important, don't start to pretend that you know. Don't start to give answers in luck, because then, or random answers, I'm sorry. Then because the next question will come, and next question will come, and then your confidence is going low, and then you are losing any reputation. So learn to say no, and learn to say, I don't know. Sometimes it's a very nice tool to reorder before the presentation your slides. There is a tool in PowerPoint that allows you to see all your transparencies and try to reorder this ordering. This is very important because it's related with the coherence of the story that you would like to say. Don't overdo it with the animations. Use animations when you are moving from one chapter to another of your presentation. This is my tip. And also include a transparency that summarizes your presentation at the end. I mentioned this about the first 20 seconds in order to memorize, and explain why. So the body language is very important. I mean, I believe myself the most confident presence is like to stand and look at your audience directly. But sometimes you should advise your slides. So be at 45 degrees. Never rotate your back on the audience. Look at your audience, because this is a respect. And also, this is a tip in order to follow the emotional attachment of the audience to you. I'm not saying that they should start to cry or start to crack to the laugh, but you can see regarding their interest. So this is something that we say, and the conclusions it's a great opportunity for the students to present their work. When you present, think that you are a tour guide, and what you are trying to do, you are trying to facilitate the travel to the knowledge of your expertise of the audience towards your topic. So think of yourself as a tour guide, and what tour guide is doing, he tries to be interested, and he tries to transfer what does he know to the audience or to the tour group, to the group that he's making the tour. The tips that I'm be giving to you, read well what you would like to present. Don't pretend that you know things. Prepare, test before you practice. Don't dare to practice. Don't dare to say, no, I don't know this thing, and I will come back to you, and engage presentation. This is excellent because you, during presentations, also you demonstrate and cultivate critical soft skills for your career. You are developing your convincing skills, your presentation skills, your time management skills, your manner skills, which is very important. You are building your experience, and then you can judge also other people, or not judge, I mean, comment your skills. These are useful sites regarding the preparation of your presentation. And I think with this, George, I have completed my presentation. Don't ask me another one, because I will need another 2 days to recover.
No, I will not. So thank you very much for this very nice presentation. Actually, I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, a very useful, presentation, because most of the students will have a lot of presentations to do in their career. Everyone has, but especially the students will have to present the master thesis, probably a PhD thesis. They're going for conferences, so this was a very useful one for especially for the students, but not only, also for us, maybe the more experienced ones. So thanks a lot, Konstantinos, for this, and also I have to say that it was a great pleasure and honor for us that you support this school and you gave such an important, in general, all these 3 presentations were so important for the soft skills and for training the new researchers and the new academics of tomorrow. So I will go to the chat to see if there is any question or comment. So there is a comment from Nazila. Please show the websites again.
The websites. Okay, let me share my screen.
Or maybe Nazila, you can type them in the chat.
No, I will share my presentation. So the websites are going to be there, Nazila.
Okay, great. So next one from Mohammed Faraj. Many thanks, Dr. Konstantinos, for the great information. Yes, indeed. And another one from Govindaraj. Thank you, Dr. George. Yes, I don't know. Okay. Thank you too. So
I would like to add something, George.
Yes,
the presentation that follows from our Italian colleague, I think that it's I would like to follow. She's going to address one of the most important and more effective collaboration methodologies, the 4 hats, I think. Am I right? Or the 7 hats? I don't remember by hand.
The 6th one.
The 6th one, okay. I did not get it, but I was between. It's an excellent framework. I strongly suggest you to follow, especially if you are running teams, especially if you are running projects. It's the most advanced, I would say the most popular collaboration and kind of techniques. And I strongly suggest you to follow. Definitely, I will follow it. I don't know, George will remind us, the schedule.
Yes, so this presentation will start at 1:30 CET, so like in 40 minutes from now. So we have time now for a lunch break.
45 minutes? We have 45 minutes, George?
We have 40 minutes.
All right. Okay.
Or maybe 39 to be precise. So Another
Okay.
comment from Maria Mitzi. Thank you very much. It was very important presentation, so that's why I suggested to you, Kostas, to give it. I knew
Thank you very
it.
much. Thank you very much.
And another, now many comments. Actually, you see, our attendees appreciate a lot your contribution. So thank you for the presentations, Dr. Konstantinos, for consecutive talks. Yes, indeed, we were hooked up throughout. Great. And Juan Pablo, thank you very much. So
De nada,
yes.
de nada, Juan Pablo, de nada.
So before we stop this session, actually before the lunch break, I would like to thank once again Konstantinos for the excellent contribution to our school and for suggesting to have this research skill day, which was Konstantinos' suggestion, and I really liked and appreciate this very interesting.
George, I think
yes.
I own one more presentation regarding perovskite sensors, but probably
yes, so
another
maybe
day.
it
I will record
be,
it.
Yes, maybe if you can record it, or you can keep it for the next year, as is going to continue. As a final one, Dr. George, where can we find the? So I have shared the link or the Google folder, and I will send you a reminder for this one. So I think we can close the session. Thanks a lot for participating, and we will be back again in 37 minutes
Okay,
for the last presentation of our intensive course. Thank you.
Okay, man. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Costa, you will do the introduction?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I can do the introduction. So
and I can also share, right? I have the possibility to share my screen.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great.
So hello everyone, good evening. This is the last part of a whole week course. As you have realized, today's main topic was like research, but now we are going to do an exercise, a methodology that I think that enhances a lot the cooperation and the brainstorming within teams, if I remember well about the 6 hats. And it's something very modern. It's something that a lot of companies are using, and we are very happy and fortunate that we have with us, I will say, an excellent presenter, a person that with her passion, I think that motivates the class to follow her activities, even though that I have realized this online. I suspect that if I have this feeling online, I'm looking forward to meeting Susan, in person, in order to follow one of her trainings and one of her lectures. Susan Gagliano, if I pronounce well her surname. She's Italian's origin, but I think that she has grew up in the States,
yes,
in New Jersey. Yesterday, here in our university, we have a U.S. delegation from Rutgers. So it's in your area, the Rutgers, so in your area. So Susan is going to, she works, and she's an expert in new methodologies, in soft skills development. He's a part of, I think, a very nice initiative, if I remember well, Teachers Academy, which is a European association of trainers for teachers, and I think for students, because students are teachers as well, no?
That's
and Susan, the floor is yours in order to show us the way.
Thank you so much, Kostas. Thank you, George, for this, for organizing this event and for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, even though my background is not particularly scientific, but hopefully I will be able to bring something today that could be useful for all of you in your collaborations. So as we mentioned, it's a kind of it's a method called the 6 hats method. And in this method, we all have experiences in collaborating. You probably, as students, for example, there's been lots of different group projects that you've needed to work on throughout your school career. There's, I assume that many of you are going to be either working in research or perhaps in corporate worlds where they're going to need your expertise. And you are going to find yourself more and more in international projects, some that are happening completely online, some of them that will be happening in person occasionally. But the biggest problem with collaboration, well, one of the biggest problems is that it can actually, it can seem like it's taking a lot longer to do things, okay? Because there's lots of humans, there's lots of opinions. And so what I'd like to do with you today is see how we could, let's see here, how we can put together, okay, I'm going to see if this is possible. I'm not able to do this, just a moment.
I think, George, in the between, probably we need to unmute all the participants, if, you know, Susan is going to request their participation.
Okay,
Yes.
I will do it now, and I will enable also their video to be. So I'm not.
First, okay, it says that I have to open my system preferences. Just a moment.
Okay, so now everyone is able to unmute and open their camera.
Okay. So what you see right now,
We cannot see your screen.
exactly. And I see that it's not letting me do that. No. Okay. Let's see. I have not ever had this problem, so just a moment.
Don't worry, take your time. I know that sometimes if you are trying to be connected and share things in Zoom, you need some settings to be set, to be arranged.
For some reason, it's telling me that I don't have permission. That's why. So
You are co-host. Maybe I can make you the main host, and let's see if it changes now. Can you check?
I will check. Okay, let's see. Okay. So the first thing that I'd like for you to do is in the chat box, I would appreciate it if you could share what you have found to be the pros and the cons of collaborating with people. What are some of the biggest issues that you find that kind of block our way of working? And then what are some of the things that are that work for you, that you have found have been a positive thing? And I will give you some time to, let's see here, host only, who can share? This is Kostas, can you see what some people are sharing? Read
yes,
them out loud.
Yeah, I can read aloud. So from Nikos Lebesis, pros, different expertise, cons, poor communication. Nikos Lebesis is obviously a Greek guy. Am I right?
And
thank you,
also
Nikos.
TPFL.
Oh, thank you, Nikos. Thank you very much. Excellent. Mohammed Farah, one of the positive things of collaboration is exchange experience and skills. I think this is a positive thing. So Mohammed pretty soon is going to also to write us some of the challenges. I'm encouraging the other people as well to contribute. Remember, one of the most important soft skills is like to express yourself, say your opinion, and participate. This is one of the soft skills because you should overcome any hesitation. This is an engagement now.
Yes.
George Kakavelakis, improve our knowledge faster. Pros. And Azilas. I'm getting more information and knowledge. Pro. Naveen. Pros. Get to develop more skills, efficient for completing tasks. Cons. Communication probes, clear division of work. Juan Pablo. Pros, refinement of ideas and better practices. Cons, individual interest contributions and expectations management. Thank you, all of you, for this input. I think that more, if we can have, even better.
Yes. It's very interesting to hear. I do find that what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to send this presentation to you, Kostas, so that that way we can for you, then you can
share it.
You can share it, and I'm also going to share.
So George, please read because there's more in chat. I'm waiting for to receive the email from.
Yes. So have you written the Mustafa's comment?
No.
Good.
No.
The pros: sharing ideas, expertise, connections. Cons: to collaborate with people who don't know what is the meaning and the purpose of collaboration. Said: importance of collaboration is much understand your idea or project. Nazila: when we meet people with not same nature and so much ego. Con.
Okay.
I'm waiting to receive the email from.
Yes, it's coming.
Yeah, somewhere in Slovenia now.
Exactly. I'm not sure why this happened, but
it happens. It happens sometimes. It has happened to me.
And then I'm going to also share a link that then we will put on after.
We have more comments.
There is another comment from L. Cons: delays and lack of communication. Pro: sharing expertise, ideas, culture. Mohammed: express and market yourself and your group within the collaborators.
That's right. That's right. And so, Kostas, what I will do is I will send it to you as a PowerPoint, okay? And that's probably, okay. All right, well, we'll see which one works better, okay? And then I'm also uploading this Padlet for you, and it'll just take one more moment. So as we can see with collaboration, we do get some more ideas. At the same time, what happens is we sometimes our ideas get stuck, which is really interesting because you would think that working together with other people, it would be a lot easier. And instead, what we often find is that people, they kind of get attached to their ideas. And when they're attached to their ideas, what can be a big problem with this is that we can't get past them. You know, people fall in love with their ideas and then they don't want to give them up. And you don't see me, do you? Yes, you do.
I just received, I just received the presentation.
There is another comment in the chat from Nisheka. Pros: more expertise and knowledge sharing. Cons: not executing the allotted part of project on time by collaborator.
Yes, that too is an enormous problem. And
another one from Christos Pavlou. Pros: better speed and quality of work. Cons: sometimes the work is hindered due to communication issues due to different scientific background of the participants.
Exactly, because each one of you is bringing something that is, you're bringing your expertise, but we don't always understand each other. And there can be a lot of communication problems. So what we'll do, and I thank you for this, also the idea of when we meet online, for example, like just what happened to me. There's a lot of things that happen there that, thank you so much, Kostas, that really make it, well, more challenging, because when we're in person and we're in 3D, I find that personally in my work, I find it to be on a relational level a lot easier. And when we're working online, there are so many things that get lost. And so, Kostas, if you wouldn't mind going forward. So as we talked about, some of the collaboration pros and cons. So it can bring together more ideas. You can pull together a broader knowledge and experiences, and it offers this much more effective way of getting things done than when we work alone. And thank you so much for sharing some of these cons and some of these obstacles. And so we can move forward from here. And the 6 Thinking Hats is a collective and inclusive tool. That's something that I like about it a lot, because it really makes sure that everyone in the group has a voice. That's another problem sometimes in collaboration, is that the same people tend to jump in and perhaps be the leaders, or you find that there are people who are quiet, and then you find out after the meeting that they're not happy with something. Or another thing that can happen is you have one person who is always full of enthusiasm, and then you have another one who, it's like they have a sort of fire extinguisher, and they're killing all of the enthusiasm, because they're bringing all of the reasons why your idea will not work. And this is something, it's not that their thoughts are not useful on some level, but let's say their pessimism about it can actually kill an idea before it's actually come to life. And so the 6 Thinking Hats includes it includes everyone in the group, and it includes all the different perspectives that we can have, while helping the group move forward more efficiently and more quickly. So as we said, it simplifies thinking by creating focus on one thing at a time. It allows us to switch our thinking collectively and inclusively. So the man behind these hats, his name was Edward De Bono. Perhaps you've heard of him. He was a Maltese physician, psychologist, author, had a very prolific life. He wrote about 85 books, and his real passion was thinking about thinking. How do we think? How can we think better? And also thinking more creatively and constructively. Perhaps in some other webinar, we can talk a bit also about that, about how our thoughts then impact our actions. But Dr. De Bono, he spent a lot of his career working with government agencies, corporate clients, organizations, and what he has to show us is useful in our student life and in research. So, okay, the key to using the 6 hats well is to use one hat at a time. So we'll see what that means. These 6 hats allow us to systematically focus on different aspects of a situation or decision. So what happens is we become focused on one piece at a time in order to have a bigger picture. And so basically we all have different thinking styles. Some of us might have a preference without realizing it. And so we'll use them one at a time in a group. And this is a great intercultural tool. A lot of us are working in intercultural organizations, and there are many aspects of the way we communicate going from one culture to another that change tremendously. What a certain word might mean in my culture might mean something different in another culture. What when we, individuals already have very distinct ways of working in teams. And then we have our cultures behind us that have a big influence. So most of the time we are unaware of this. And if you're interested in these topics, Edward Hall was a luminary back in the 50s when he started talking about the cultural iceberg. Okay, so the cultural iceberg means that at the very top of culture, there are things that are visible and evident, like language, or like, I don't know, certain traditions or certain foods. And under the surface of that iceberg, you have a whole submerged reality that most of the time we in that culture are totally unaware of. And it has to do with time management. It has to do with how we would agree or disagree, how we would communicate that, how we would problem solve, how we would tell, how we treat hierarchy. So we all possess these cultural values and beliefs and social norms, and they greatly impact our communication and collaboration. We might see the world in terms of egalitarian, which means, maybe you are an undergraduate and you are working with a highly esteemed professor. And in a more hierarchical culture, the way you're going to work with this professor is you're going to feel very much like you're in a down position, that they're in a position of great power. And perhaps if you don't agree with something, or if something's not clear with you, you might not say it, or you would find another way to communicate it. Whereas in a more egalitarian culture, perhaps you call that professor by his first name. Perhaps you would have no problem in a meeting. Actually, it's encouraged to speak up and ask questions about what doesn't make sense to you. Perhaps you have a very direct communication style, or an indirect communication style, where you give a lot of information around the problem without actually saying what the problem is, because perhaps you don't want to seem rude, or it's inferred. Another thing is we might value individualism or collectivism. A greater part of the world belongs to collectivist cultures, and in collectivist cultures, obviously, group harmony is much more important than what the individual thinks. And me coming from the United States originally, which is considered the most individualistic culture on earth, it means that the individual is often looking for a way to emerge, or feels that their needs or their thoughts are very important. So as you can see, all of these different kinds of communication can result in misunderstandings, conflicts, some underground hostility, or even hostility that's very evident. So let's move on. And then Edward De Bono says, a discussion should be a genuine attempt to explore a subject rather than a battle between competing egos. And anyone who has worked in a group knows exactly what I mean. That there's a lot of ego there, and there's a lot of wanting to perhaps be the leader. And so this helps us. Let's continue and see the white hat. So how does this work? There are different hats, and in each step of the process, everyone in the group will be wearing, either literally, but usually not, or figuratively, a certain colored hat. The white hat is the hat where we give the facts. So the facts, it's all about information, what information you have, perhaps what information you need, where to get it, but it's basically, what are we starting out with? What do we know? And then perhaps sometimes we start with the white hat, and then we would move on. So then we introduce the red hat. The red hat is considered the emotions hat. Now, I know this sounds a little odd, because I think you've been talking about very technical things all week, and you're not quite sure what emotions have to do with this. A lot, okay? We are constantly having feelings about everything we are doing. And we have feelings about, for example, a certain problem that we're trying to solve, or we have feelings about the way things have been going. When we are confronting a problem, and we will confront one in a little bit, there is always a part of us that has feelings about it and intuitions and instincts. And the red hat, everyone putting it on at the same time, means that we can express, for example, disappointment. We can express frustration. We can express joy, and we don't need to explain it. We don't have to explain why, but we need to say, when I am looking at this particular problem, I'm feeling this, or the thought of developing this particular idea makes me feel this, okay? And so the emotional content is constantly influencing our thoughts, and that also influences our behavior. So you see where this is going. Let's continue. After the red hat, we have the black hat. Now, the black hat is a hat that some people wear all the time. And the black hat is very necessary. It's called the judge. It's just that sometimes people don't realize that they go through their collaborations with a black hat on all the time. And the black hat is, it has its place, but it interferes sometimes with the other processes. So the black hat identifies risk. It is used for critical judgment, and it has to give logical reasons for their concerns. It's a very powerful hat. The black hat is the hat that helps us also, understand how to proceed. It helps us identify dangers and threats. Okay, let's continue. And then we have the yellow hat. And we all wear it at the same time. And the yellow hat is the optimist. Some of us just naturally are that way, and some of us are not. But what's so interesting about this is that we all are going to look at the problem through the lens of the yellow hat at the same time. So it's a positive view of things. It's identifying the benefits, the values. Okay, and so it's actively looking for what's working. And then the green hat, which is big fun, because once we have identified the emotions that we're feeling, once we identify the risks and what's wrong with it, once we identify some of the benefits, perhaps we will now be open to, but what new things could we do? What alternatives could we have? What possibilities? And then the blue hat. The blue hat is considered the conductor. Usually the leader of the meeting would be wearing the blue hat, but of course everyone can wear it at the same time. And it's the control hat, about thinking about our thinking. It's basically setting an agenda, the focus, and it also ensures that guidelines are observed. And the blue hat can serve where we all put it on as a sort of summary of what's happened in this session and what conclusions have we come to, what decisions, until we meet again. All right. So the benefits are that obviously, as we're all wearing the same hat at the same time, well, it creates a more visible awareness of these multiple perspectives. And all voices are heard and valued. So the person who tends to be the idea generator, gets their moment. The person who is usually the one who identifies all the risks gets their moment. And the person who is the optimist also gets their moment. But most importantly, they experience other roles. And this really expands our thinking. And we don't get so stuck in immediate differences in opinion. right? You might have the optimist there saying, I just love how this is working. This is just awesome. And the black hat comes along and says, but don't you see this problem? Don't you see? I don't agree with that. Then the idea person comes along and says, but we could try to do this. And instead you might have the emotions person who comes and says, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. And we get stuck and we can't move forward. So the other thing that's interesting is the hat metaphor makes our group dynamics less personal. If you have a person who, for example, kind of jumps around and they immediately only see the dangers in something, instead of saying, don't be such a pessimist, you can just simply say, okay, I hear some black hat language. Right now we're on yellow hat. So let's stick with yellow hat. And then when we get to black hat, let's bring up this particular issue. So it's not as personal and people do not get so stuck in their certain role. You know what I mean, right? It also, actually, if we could go back just a moment, Kostas, I was just going to say that it definitely leads to more creative thinking, and we can make a better decision. We can examine a problem more deeply, and this method can save a lot of time. Okay, so here we have on the next slide, we have a Padlet that I would love for you to go to. Now, maybe it's, you could open up a new tab on your screen, or we could, I'm not sure if this can work. I can always put in the chat box the,
I mean, if they have a QR code readers in their mobile phones, they can just, place it on the screen. This is what I have done.
okay,
you can work with the camera, the mobile phone.
Yes, I think that's probably easiest. That's right. And I think, Kostas, show me if you got the Padlet and if you can share that, because I also sent you in the email, I sent you the Padlet.
Just a moment. So I will stop sharing the screen.
Yes.
To check my email. Yeah, it's going to be easier if we can share my screen and see the results. Am I right? This is what
that's
we would
exactly
like to do.
Right. Because once again, I evidently in my system's preferences, it's not allowing me to share my screen. I have no idea why. Oh, thank you, Philippe. Excellent. And so basically, let me know if you are able.
I have not received the email yet.
I'm waiting. It's in the same email that I sent before.
All right. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
And
let me share my screen now.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a QR reader, I will share this with you, okay? So that you can use, you can find another way. Here
so
we go.
This is, am I right? This is the screen.
That's it. Excellent. Now this is a perfect example, Kostas, of a good collaboration that you and I have here.
Oh,
right?
Many years now.
Oh my goodness. And so, okay, Nazila, I'm glad that you could access that. So, okay, what are we doing here? I had an idea. I thought we could very quickly and very simply put together our experiences in this seminar. In this week that you've been following this seminar, right? You've had this experience. You've been online following all the different speakers. And so what we could do right now is each one of us, by clicking on the plus, is share if we all wear the white hat. We're all wearing the white hat at this moment. And I would like for us to just write very quickly, either using your mobile phone or using your computer if you've opened this in another tab. We'll start with, what are the facts about this seminar, about this week-long experience? How many days did it last? How many hours? What was the topic? All right. And also facts about, I don't know, 5 days duration, perfect. How many hours a day does it require you to be in front of the computer? And then about 6 hours a day. And so the facts would be that you need a good computer connection, that you need to have time to sit in front of the computer. Is that correct? That it is online. And so let's say that it's not, you don't have the opportunity to speak to people, for example, during the breaks. All right. And I would love if the students also, and then maybe you might want to refresh the Padlet, Kostas, because in these online seminars, they are amazing opportunities that also have some pros and cons, right? All about the technologies. Yes. And what else do we know about it? Where are people speaking from? What language is being used? Okay. And we also know that, well, that you need a good internet connection, and you need to be able to, you know, have good audio. So if we were to wear the red hat, all right, and most of you are showing up anonymously, so don't worry about anyone finding out what you wrote, all right? The red hat is, how do we feel about being on this, you know, having this experience of sitting in front of the computer for 5 days, 6 hours a day, feeling, you don't have to justify why, but you can just say, what kinds of emotions has it been giving you? And there's no right answer and there is no wrong answer, okay? It's just what you have experienced. I'm going to see what is happening in real time. Privileged, happy. I'm going to write curious, okay? I'm also going to write frustrated, and it has to do with the fact that my computer was having an issue. And so on some level, it could interfere with my experience. Anything else? I'd like to hear all about what your emotions are about this week. Let's see. Really exciting. I enjoyed all the sessions. I learned a lot. I liked all the contributions. When I get tired, I leave. Okay, very good. Excellent. The emotions that accompany us in this experience, so important. I see that people are thinking there. They're reflecting on that. And now, okay, really exciting. Let me see what else. Okay, so as you are writing what your emotions were, motivated, okay, very good. Motivation. Does anyone feel, for example, are there any emotions that are connected to the fact that you, you know, have to sit in front of the computer all day, or, you know, anything like that? Okay, well, it seems like we will, I'll move on just so we can continue having the experience. Now, the black hat, all right? Now, you're all showing up anonymous, so do not worry. But the black hat would be kind of like, what are the negative aspects of an online seminar experience like this one? Meaning what hasn't worked, or what obstacles might be in the way? Some of the presentations should be postponed, like mine. Okay. Does that mean it needed to be? Okay. Hard to absorb, excellent. Connect to all of the ideas in the given time frame, excellent. What else? No physical interaction with the speakers during break time, absolutely, yes, yes. I see that there are people thinking. Okay. This is our opportunity. Fear of progress. Okay. So I think if I understand correctly, what this person means is that you experience the sensation of fear of progress, or you felt that perhaps the speakers were fearing progress, or overall in the scientific community. Okay. All right. So if you are thinking of any more negatives about this experience, please feel free to write it. Okay. Then now we're going to wear the yellow hat. And the yellow hat is the good points, where we're thinking about what value this experience has had. What are the benefits? The benefits, I mean, the things that really were, seemed to work for you. No need to travel and get a visa. That's right. That's exactly right. And I would also say good use of our time and resources, right? Clear view of the modus operandi of, I'm going to say it wrong, Perovskites. Networking. You got to know different people. The good point is that I saw new researcher in my field of research, such as Dr. George and Dr. Konstantinis. Yes, that's right. I would also say a good point is the sessions are recorded, so participants can watch it again in case they experienced information overload. Thinking of solutions. That's right. Excellent. And so being able to bring in the same panel of experts from all over the world. It's a global classroom, absolutely. And all best work from, yes, the Perovskite community shared in one course. There's a lot of yellow hats here. Very good. And so I would like to just move on to the green hat. So keeping in mind some of the emotions that people felt, enthusiasm, curious, frustrated, supported, a bit of fatigue, maybe information overload, okay? Then thinking of the black hat. So the black hat was, well, that perhaps some of us had technical difficulties, or the internet connection would make us nervous, not feeling excited and motivated, missing tea time, getting hungry, also feeling jealous of others who are doing cool things. And then the fact that there's no physical interaction and fear of progress. So if we put it all together with the things that are working, what could be done to improve this situation? So I see that Kostas is always thinking. Yes, and he says that we could combine the online session with a face-to-face activity and meeting and to have more speakers. Yes. I was also thinking that there could be a virtual coffee break where people can get in chat, can get in breakout rooms to talk about topics of interest. More speakers to know the participants and the students better. Enable to share participants' contacts. Great idea. Yes. And then perhaps we could, let's see. We could discuss the frustrations and difficulties of research and collaborations more openly. You know, like we're giving a lot of hard skills here, a lot of information, but perhaps we could also talk a bit more about some of the soft skills that interfere. And when the person who said to know the participants and students, right? What would you suggest? Practice and try to do it. Yes, that it could be, there could be more practical aspects to the whole thing. More speakers. So you would even like more from relevant industries. Excellent. Okay. And so just so I enable us to have a little bit of time for Q&A, let's do the blue hat for a moment. All right. So Kostas, if you are kind of like the head of a meeting, all right, what would you say now? What would you see as like the next priority? You know, what would be the summary of what happened? I'm going to write what I think. Okay. To write a review report and send to the participants. Well, is that a suggestion or is that what our priority is? Oh, okay. What is needed now? Perhaps, yes. Maybe we need new ideas on how to use the break times during online sessions. To share with the participants the contact details of the speakers. Yes. Okay. So these ideas, lab facility demonstrations, I'm going back to that green hat. That's very interesting. Combine experimental with simulation works to make it easy to predict, behavior. Encourage discussion among the students to include more engagement with participants. Excellent. Okay, so, all right. What I would like to do now is then perhaps open up, if anybody wants to continue sharing on the Padlet or in the chat, or even just, turning on your, your camera. If you have any questions about this, if you are wondering, could this actually be used in different situations? Okay. Let me see. Put aside some time for talking with students. Yes. So yeah, this is basically how six hats would work. It could work more slowly, but not that much slower. It's not like we would spend an hour and a half on, one hat. It's supposed to move quickly. And it's supposed to be something that, let's say that's a tool that gives us a clear idea very quickly of what's happening. Okay, encourage discussion among students. Okay.
Susan, can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
So I was thinking that during the summer, we had the University of Pennsylvania that visited us in Crete, and we have a nice workshop regarding design thinking. So how design thinking can be combined with the six hat? Probably I can see that six hat can dictate the brainstorming that we are doing during the design thinking. Am I right?
Yes, because what can happen, six hats are particularly good when you feel that your group is, that people have, it's a bit more of a relational tool, right? Sometimes your ideas get stuck or your group gets stuck. You have people who are in certain roles and they constantly are behaving in the same way. And what happens is that can kind of stop our thinking from continuing. And this, I would say that the six hats for thinking is even kind of like a conflict prevention tool or a bit of a management tool of the relationships. I see it as, yes, basically something that would foster also understanding more quickly and a better use of our time in trying to understand okay, what is the situation, approaching it from all different angles and then saying what needs to be done, because we all know we've all sat through really long meetings.
And the other thing that, I have realized by your exams regarding the six hat is like an excellent tool to evaluate something that has already happened, no?
Yes. Yes. And then thinking about what's next. And Nisheka writes, why six hats, not more, not less? Excellent. How do we know that what hat one is wearing at any point in time? So the idea is that the leader of the session, the leader of this six hats moment would say, now we are all going to wear this hat. So that's how you know. And you bring up a very interesting point, is that actually sometimes you do not need all of the hats in a kind of either a brainstorming session or trying to understand where are we now, where do we want to go. Sometimes it's not necessary. Another thing, sometimes we will use the hats in a different order. I use them in an order that I felt made more sense to me, but you could also do it in, I don't know, you could start with the black hat. You could start with, you can't really start necessarily with the idea hat, but because usually you need a little time for that, but you can change around the order. And so when you say, how do we use it in a daily practice? Well, sometimes people use it for their own thinking. Okay, what happened? Like maybe you're stuck with a certain problem you have. You can't decide if you should move out of the apartment you're living in to find, to live by yourself, or if you should stay in this apartment with your roommates, with all of the pros and cons of having roommates. And you can't make a decision. And you've talked to your mother, and you've talked to your brother, and you've talked to your best friend. Sometimes you can just use the six hats individually to think about what is happening here. It helps us make sense of our thinking and our feeling and our ideas. And so, are there any other questions?
I can see one question on the chat from Niseka.
Yeah, I answered that. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So it was like, how do we know what hat one is wearing? And as I said, the leader of the meeting would say, everyone now put on your white hat. Everyone now put on your yellow hat. And even just using a metaphor that's it's even a bit silly, if you will. It shows that we're not taking ourselves overly seriously. And, we are able to kind of look at this from an outside point of view. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I was wondering, I wanted to know in the chat box, is this something have you ever heard of this technique? And could you see where it would be useful in any of your either collaborations or any group situation?
So can I ask another one? I'm a student also of this.
Please.
So what do you suggest? How long this process should take? I mean, regarding the time duration. So how much time we should devote in order to apply this? Because this is very, you present it very clear. And I have some manuals from Cell about, how in Cell they are using this 6-hat, process. So what is like the duration that you suggest that this should take? Of course, depends on the volume, on the size, but since we have also this online voting facilities right now, this could be, very fast. I mean,
yes, the idea is that it's supposed to save you a lot of time. So depending on how big the group is, if you have a larger group, then you might want to use, for example, if you're doing it online, then you use something like Padlet. If you are in person, you could still use something online like Padlet, so people could very quickly express, instead of saying, okay, yes, Kostas, what do you have to say? Yorgos, what do you have to say? We would be able to get a lot of input quickly. And I would say, once you've spent, a few minutes on a hat and you've facilitated their communication, then you actually can move on and get the idea is to get a clear picture of what's happening. Perhaps the blue hat part or the green hat of the ideas would take longer, because that's actually the part that's really interesting. You want to see what else could we do and what do we need to do next? Okay. So that's, let's say it's up to the group's discretion. But I think you would find that if you don't use any method at all, we get stuck in something, and we don't get input from everyone. Have you ever been in a group and you're trying to get input and people are being kind of quiet? And then you get other people who are excited and they're bringing a new idea. And then that one person who's been quiet the entire time finally raises their hand and they just, right? So I hope that this is helpful for everybody. And thank you so much, Kostas, for helping me with my problem. Let's see here.
It was a really pleasure to answer your question. There's another. No, I know a little bit about perovskites after my PhD, but I had no idea about 6-hats. But I'm going to use it after this. So in order to capture, this process probably will take something 10 minutes to a quarter.
Maybe let's say that, especially to go through some of the hats, I think in 15 minutes you could be done. And then it would give your meeting a clearer idea of what do we do next? What would we like to focus on? And like I said, it's very important to hear everybody's voice and to find a way to hear everybody's voice. And this is great in the classroom, also for us professors, us teachers. And I think it could even work with our families sometimes. You have some, some different ideas on how we should do things, and why not? It could take some of the arguments away. Especially if you have teenagers in the house and they like to constantly be wearing the black hat when the parents have an idea, or the parents have the black hat when the teenager has an idea. I really look at it as a relational tool as well.
Excellent.
So thank you so much for inviting me and for helping me out.
Susan, it was a great pleasure for George and myself to having you here. You offer something different and something very useful. Indeed. Also related with research skills, because as you mentioned, this could be a nice assessment tool, what is happening in groups, what is happening in teams. And also, George, probably we can use it as an evaluation process for the whole event and the school. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. And I admire how organized you are and all of the things that you propose. I'm so happy to be a part of this on some level.
Okay, this is a commitment, so we are going to exploit this.
Yes, hopefully I'll see you in May.
Yeah,
Great.
definitely.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Susan. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Kostas, I think we reached the point that we can summarize the today's session, and then,
George,
unfortunately, yes.
We have an email from University of Cambridge from Professor Malyaras. He's
Okay.
asking, can you please check your email? And in the meantime, I can give, an overview.
I don't have an email.
You don't have an email?
No.
I received something like me. So overview, and I will check my email. Do you think that we have the time? I think that we don't have time to include one more lecture today, no?
If we skip, no, actually, if we combine the two, let's say, discussion conclusion sessions in one, maybe we have 30 minutes.
Okay, let me check my email and I will come back to you.
Okay. Very interesting tool indeed. Very nice.
So George Malyaras, Professor Malyaras is available. George, I think that you have received to deliver his talk at 4 o'clock. So in half an hour from now. I don't know. What do you think? He's a very, very distinguished scientist, but of course, we have to wait for a half an hour. So George, the decision is yours. I think that we should thank Professor Malyaras.
Don't have any mail, unfortunately. I don't know.
But
why.
I think that we cannot keep the people for half an hour, on hold. So I don't know.
I mean, it's your decision. I don't know what to say now, because the speaker is very distinguished. But
yes,
what is the topic he's going to present?
Mainly
because you already presented his topic.
Yes, yeah. So I will answer him to thank him, and I will say to a next event, since I have made the presentation how to publish your work in order to leave the people. It was a long week.
Okay, so let's do first the summary, because it's important that we summarize. So maybe you can start the summary of today's session, because
okay, thank you. So people and colleagues and the friends, because we are in the same ecosystem, I suspect we are a community. I mean, today what we try to do is like to link the technical competence and the technical character of the perovskite technologies with some universal competencies and some universal skills that you should demonstrate. Mainly tips on how to write a paper, what are the main building blocks of a journal paper or any kind of written presentation that you're going to do, what things you should take care, and some tips, general tips for each session. Also, we present something regarding oral presentation, which is a very powerful tool to start the dissemination of what are you going to present as a part of your research. Finally, we close today's event with a very nice and very effective and industry-proved regarding its effectiveness communication tool like the 6 hats. And I kept the note that this is a 360 degrees approach, because you are wearing the character of everyone, the positive guy, the criticism, the visionary, because you need to vote what should happen next. So you are a part of the process. And I mean, if I would like to say a comment regarding the days that I managed to follow, I think it was like a complete course that does not exist. I think this is the first one regarding perovskites, a new emerging material with applications in everything, from electrical devices to optoelectronic devices to everything. regarding stability, recycling, applications. So I think that, George, you did a great job regarding the planning of the whole week. I think all of us, we got a lot of information, and we're not going to announce the next school because it's going to be a surprise. Already with George, we are planning the next event, the third school that through the Hellenic Mediterranean University, our department, the Department of Electronic Engineering, we are planning for our community, and our community is yourself. So stay tuned, and we are going to come very soon with a new announcement of something that we think that it will be of our joint interest. So George, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Konstantinos. It was a great pleasure and honor to be among, together with you, the host of this and the organizer of this school, of this intensive course. I learned a lot from all the distinguished speakers we had. So let me share with you my screen so we go through once again of the things that we covered. I hope you can see my screen right. So in the first day of the course, we gave a very nice introduction together with Kostas of the supporters of this intensive course. So the ATHENA European University, that is a new established university that is going to be a new, let's say, umbrella under 7 or 8 European universities in the European Union. And also I gave also to you an introduction about a very distinguished and important supporting funding source in the European Union that you can go and apply if you are a graduate student or a postdoctoral researcher. And then we started to go through some of the interesting and very peculiar properties of this class of materials, all the way from the synthesis of these materials or to the electrical and optoelectronic characterization of these materials and some applications on energy devices. And the next day we covered probably except this presentation that we didn't manage to have, we covered all the interesting, let's say, topics regarding the energy harvesting from this type of materials, all the way from the single junction perovskites, the carbon-based perovskites, and the two very promising applications and, let's say, very hot topics in these days for solution process photovoltaics, the tandem solar cells, which has the promise for very high efficiency, all those solution process technologies. And then I believe maybe the most interesting day regarding the technical point of view of the school was day number 3, because most of the things that are known for this type of materials are based on the energy harvesting solar photovoltaic devices. So we learned a lot about other applications, such as we learned a lot about LEDs, so light emitting devices, lasers, field effect transistors. That is one topic that is not very well explained and covered in the field of the photovoltaic devices, but also the X-ray detector, which I believe is maybe after or together with the photovoltaics, the most promising technologies. You have seen from our distinguished speaker that this type of materials, they have already demonstrated 100 times better performance compared to amorphous selenium, for example, which is the material that is already commercialized for X-ray detectors. And today actually was a very big surprise regarding the things that we learned. Not only surprise, but let's say a very big added value. I was not expecting to see so many different things regarding the research skills and how important are these for not only for the students, but also for us, the more experienced researchers, but also for the professors, that it is important to know what you are doing regarding how you publish, how to publish your work and how to submit a publication. This is very important, especially for the graduate students, and also regarding other things like how to present your work, because this is maybe one of the most important things. If you want to sell your work, you have to know how to present your work, and this is also important when you want to write a proposal as well. You should know how to present your work in a written way. And actually, another very interesting presentation was the last one that gave us an idea on how to evaluate things in a more schematic way. So, of course, we are not done yet. We have the course evaluation tomorrow. I managed to upload most of the things that we covered today, so I'm waiting from Konstantinos and Susan to send me their presentation. Konstantinos, I think you will upload also the today's recordings in the Google Drive folder.
Correct.
And
I have created a YouTube channel, George, that I have already placed the first day of the videos, and then I will upload also the last day. So through your Google Drive links, I will also upload the second and the third day. So everything should be available through our YouTube channel to everyone.
Okay, so you will have some time to read the material and participate tomorrow's exam. And because I have received some emails from people who cannot attend tomorrow the exam, maybe I will write you an email later today to suggest some alternative day, probably Saturday, same time. If it is,
George,
yes?
George, what do you think that we are going to make the final exam in a week time from now? Not tomorrow, but next Friday, so to give the time to the people to see the video again, read the material. Also, it's going to give us more time to organize the material for them. I don't know, it's up to you.
Yes, maybe I agree with you. So I will send the email to all the participants that we can postpone the exam until the 18th of November.
Correct.
And we will be more prepared, not only you, but also us, the organizers. So I think with that, we cover most of the topics. Maybe I can request from the audience, maybe you can switch on your cameras. I think I have enabled this opportunity at least to have a final, let's say, I can do a sprint screen, so, and I can place it in our social media. So I can request from everyone if you would like to switch on your cameras.
Excellent. Thank you, Nazila. Let's see, Mustafa, Bidiya, Govodirach, Anna, Naveen, Clara, Christos. Oh, excellent. the half of the screen.
Okay. Okay. So,
Mohammed, thank you, Mohammed.
Okay, I will take a print screen of my screen, and yeah.
Hima. So here is Hima.
I will do. Okay, great. I will do another one. Okay, great. So,
thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot for attending the school. I hope you will also attend the course evaluation, and stay tuned. We will come back next 2023 with another one. Hopefully it will be maybe in person. Let's see regarding our resources. We will try to do it in person, and or maybe hybrid, as it is very, let's say, common these days to have hybrid events. So until the next one, take care.
Thank you. On behalf also of the Department of Electronic Engineering, Hellenic Mediterranean University, as I mentioned at the beginning, here we have our director as well, Professor Hatzakis. We hope to organize this event in Chania, which is a very beautiful city in a very beautiful island as Crete. I don't know, John, if you would like to say a final say as a director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kostas. I want to thank you, everybody. And I will be happy to meet everybody to Chania.
Excellent.
Bye for me.
Bye. So guys, take care, stay healthy, and keep progress. As how did he say? How did he say? Stay hungry, stay humble, stay hungry. Something like this from Steve Jobs.
And also, if you are interested about any like, if you are looking for a position or for like a PhD or master degree program, maybe you can already contact us or one of our speakers, since they are already, recruiting their groups or their universities. Maybe you can find something interesting.
Excellent.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.